Good evening, everybody who might be listening and those who are in attendance. Hello, Kat. My name is Jeff Broadleib. I'm the chairman of the Southampton Village Board of Architectural Review and Historic Preservation. So I'd like to call this meeting to order on this, the 8th day of February. And by way of roll call, let me introduce the members. They are Sarah Latham, Peter DeWitt, John Gregory, Mark McIntyre, and that is it. And whereas we have a quorum, I move that we open the meeting, and may I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, great. So all in favor of opening the meeting, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, and if there's anybody who doesn't want to be here, well, hold your tongue. But I assume there are no nays. Participating with us this evening are our legal counsel, Alice Cooley, and our recording secretary, Jackie Allen, and our videographers, Kat and Charlie Styler. So let's proceed. And has everyone had a chance to read the minutes?
Yes. Yes.
Are there any correction anyone wishes to make? No, if not, I move that we dispense with the reading of the minutes and accept them as submitted. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor, aye.
Aye.
Okay, any opposed? No. So the minutes are accepted and we can proceed with the meeting. And so we have, the first order of business would be written decisions if we had any, but we don't. So we're going to proceed right away to the first application, public hearings historic. The first application, that being of Thomas and Meredith Joyce at 765 Hill Street, seeking a certificate of appropriateness for partial demolition, relocation, and restoration of existing structure. So would the applicant or whoever is representing the applicant please step forward?
Okay, John Bennett is coming in.
Ah, there's John. John, how are you?
Good.
Good. So John, introduce yourself, and then I just want to make a small statement, if I may.
Excuse me?
I said, introduce yourself, and then I'll just make a small statement that I think will help the process a bit.
Okay, actually, my statement was going to be about the process to try to educate some of the board members.
Exactly. So yeah, so John, you and I are on the same wavelength, which is in terms of managing expectations.
Well, we'll see about that.
Anyway, there's so much history, literally and figuratively, in this application that yes, I welcome you and Bailey's input as to the history as succinctly as you can. And I dare say it will most likely require the board to look at some of that post this meeting. So we're not going to end the meeting with a decision this evening, but I think it's an opportunity for us to move forward on this application. And as much as we like seeing it on the agenda, I'm sure, moving it to the point of getting it done would be everybody's preference. So with that, John, I'll shut up and I'll let you and Bailey take over.
Okay, this has been around for quite a while. The board, anyone who knows the westerly entrance into Southampton at all will know that there used to be two buildings there. One, and I'm showing my age, was the old Bartlett Tree Repair building. And the building that is still standing there, which is a antique store. The Bartlett Tree Care building, ultimately we were able to demonstrate that it had been totally rebuilt in the 80s, so the board allowed it to be demolished. And then, so what we're left with was the westerly building. And when I say the westerly building, I think, well, I'll tell you about what your own experts have said. What I'm talking about, the front part of it, which is the white two-story part of it, because there are some, really, unremarkable and in bad shape, but more important, unremarkable additions to the back, which both Zach Studenroth and I'll talk a little bit about this, but both Zach Studenroth and as well as I think it was Joel Snodgrass did a report back in 2016. Pretty much, I'll just talk to you about quoting Joel. There's a little connector building and a back portion there. They're not white. They're one story, maybe not even quite one story. Are not realistically salvageable, and they're they're just not significant. So really, as you'll see from the site plan, all we're talking about is that one story, the two-story front, the southerly part of the building, which is of any historic value. And we're here to try to work with you to try to preserve that. Now, we did bring a lawsuit, which is pending, saying that the board's refusal to, Alice, you look surprised, but it's still pending. Were you not aware of that? Oh, you're muted. Alice, you're muted. You're muted.
My
Yeah.
kids are going to bed. I'm sorry. It's very loud here.
Oh, sorry. I have 5 kids, so.
I know.
So I've been, yeah, in any event, there's a lawsuit still pending, which we've been kicking over. One of the sections of the village code says that, when you're in the process of trying to figure something out, you can go back to the board, which is what we're doing. So this board did back in, let me get it for you.
January
Back in-
2019, I think, John.
It was October 2019.
Okay, something like that.
board-
Okay.
This board made the following recommendations. The building, including the porch, may be relocated 20 feet northward, and the current side setback of the west property should be maintained. And then no shrubbery or planting should be permitted south of the front of the walled portion, just so that, you're going to preserve this. We're moving it back, but you're going to preserve it because, so you're not going to screen it off, because that would, of course, would defeat the purpose of keeping it in the public view shed. So the limitations on that, and you should all take a look at that October 28th, 2019 report from this board. This actually took the form of a resolution because we went to the Zoning Board of Appeal as part of a process when you're involved with a contributing structure. We went to the Zoning Board of Appeals and asked them for some relief. This house, or slash, it's really started as a house, then became an antique store, sits literally at the street right of way. And there is actually a car took out the front porch at one point. So everybody agreed that, and it's admittedly unusual, but everybody agreed from a health, safety, and welfare point of view, including this board and including the Zoning Board of Appeals, that the building should be moved back 20 feet. That doesn't affect the public view shed. You'll still be able to see it, particularly in light of the fact that the recommended conditions upon the limitations of screening. So take a look at all this stuff, familiarize yourself with all of it. Joel Snodgrass's report, this board's prior referral, the Zoning Board of Appeals approval, allowing us to move it back 20 feet and maintain the side yard. And the great thing about this is going to be maintained and put to a good use. It's going to be an adaptive use. It's going to be maintained as a guest house to a larger single-family residence on the property. So that's all great stuff, and it's all working the way it should. I mean, honestly, if my client had their druthers, they'd take it down, but they realize there are elements of the village that want it maintained. So rather than continue the litigation, if it can be settled along this lines, we're more than happy to do that. I just want to make sure, please go out, take a look at it. You'll see that what's proposed to be preserved is the front or southerly section of it, which is the 2-story portion. And then behind it, there's some wholly insignificant, lacking any significant, unpainted, there's a connector piece and a little 1-story shed behind it, which is in horrific shape. And I know that in and of itself isn't enough to grant a certificate of appropriateness. But you'll see there's the front piece and the back piece, which are, have never been, there's never been any intention, there's never been any input from either Mr. Snodgrass or from Mr. Studenroth suggesting that anything should happen to that back piece of the building, but that should be demolished. But we will be preserving the front piece as a guest house to a larger piece. And I think it's a sort of an elegant way to preserve this building and give it some functionality, because heaven knows that no one's going to do what was there years ago. I mean, like 100 years ago, which is it was like a sort of a small general store. So that ain't economically viable. Neither is any sort of retail use. So that's where we are, and
Okay,
that's where we are. So
Okay.
I'd ask you to take a look at all this stuff.
great. Well, we appreciate that, John. And so what I'd like to propose is that Sarah heads up the board's representation, and that she and Peter, and to the extent that the fellow members can join, and Alice, I assume that's okay if that's part of the request, and that doesn't violate the sunshine rules if we all go out to inspect the property.
Just don't talk about the application, just take a look at it.
Just take a look at it. Thanks. And that's what we'll do. And so
Wear
John,
masks.
thanks. Can I
We
leave
can't
it?
talk about it then.
Okay. Could I leave it to Sarah and you, John, to make arrangements for a suitable date between now and the next meeting?
Anytime, Sarah. 9696 283 9696. We'll set you up. It used to be the
Okay.
number for the post house, if any, the restaurant. And then for years I would get calls. Can I bring 6 of us in at 7 o'clock? And I would say, well, I really got tempted a couple times to say, not a problem. Make sure you're on time though.
Okay.
283 9696.
So John, so then obviously we'll be adjourning, and you're asking us to adjourn until the board gets a chance to visit.
Yes.
So I move that we accept the applicant's request to adjourn and to allow the board to visit the property. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? So there being no objections, so be it. The motion is passed. And John, we look forward to seeing you and Bailey perhaps at the property.
Yeah.
Okay,
A
Thank
cat,
you.
I'm on the next one. So anyway,
I'll leave you in then, John.
I mean, the next one is
Right.
not adjourned. Janet.
okay. So this next application is that of Waldron Manor at 16 Gin Lane. A adjournment and a request for adjournment exists in the file. Alice, we don't need to move to re-accept that, do we? Just acknowledge?
No,
Okay. So the third application among the historic properties is that of Maria Janis at 208 Pond Lane for requesting a certificate of appropriateness for the demolition of an existing structure. John, you've indicated that you are representing the applicant. Alice has already confirmed that the affidavits are in. So with that, again, introduce yourself and we'll proceed.
Okay, for the applicant, John Bennett, the request is for a certificate of appropriateness to demolish this house, which was built in 1967. At least the building permit was from 1967. I mean, this side of Agawam has a great history, and there's some great homes. Hopefully you'll see what we've submitted, and I'll just take you through them. The first thing we gave you was the 1916 Belcher Hyde Atlas. Fortunate enough to have many years ago bought a copy of that from Bob Keene. So that's from my office, but you'll see on the south side of Pond Lane, there is the old Thompson House, but it's probably 500 feet away from the site of this property, which is a much smaller parcel right on the southwest corner of southwest corner. Yeah, I guess southeast corner, I should say, of Pond Lane, fronting on Lake Agawam. Then we looked at the Sanborn. This is the 26th Sanborn, I think. And you can see it's pretty neat. That house was still there. You can see it on the, excuse me? You want us to share? You want us to share any of this stuff?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry.
that would be great. This way
Sorry
the
about
public gets to see it as well,
Okay.
John.
What do you want to, you want to start with Sanborn or you want to start with Belcher Hyde? Let's
Belcher
start
High.
with Belcher Hyde. Okay. It's not, okay, there we go. So perfect. Let's see. Okay, can you see, you know, everyone's faces are blotting out the, you're gonna have to shift it over. I'm sorry, Bailey. Take your time. This is to me, I'm totally incapable of doing this. You can see that the property, is not improved at all where the lot is now. That's where the lot is now. That's 1917. There's a rather large house to the south, well to the south, probably 400 or 500 at least feet to the south. This is one of these great old huge parcels back in the old days. Look at the west side of Agawam. Look at how big those parcels were. But in any event, there's nothing where the Janus house is. And then we're going to take you to the 26 Sanborn map, and you'll see that, well, that's about 10 years later, and you'll see nothing there also. And again, we're lucky enough to have a copy of this in our office, just a black and white copy. So there you go. See it? Then Pond Lane. Yeah. So the nothing in where the Janus house was.
Right.
Then we'll take you to some aerials. And these aerials are from, are these from Suffolk County or the town of Southampton? The town of Southampton aerial. You can see there's the parcel and its tax map number is outlined in, I guess that's yellowish orange. And you'll recognize the house and even that little circular driveway. It's rather remarkable how accurate those Sanborn and Belcher Hyde things were. There's the aerial there. You can you'll recognize the house that was to the south of the Janus property. So that's the 1962 aerial. And then in 76, you'll see the house. And that makes, we'll get you that in a second, I'm sorry. There's the house appearing in 76, in the 76 aerial, but we know that it was there before that. We'll show you the, let's see, the town of Southampton has it built in 1970, but I think that's off by a couple of years, because the next thing that you'll see is the village of Southampton. I don't know if you guys are familiar with these. I guess you use them sometimes. You see them. These are the cards. We call them the cards. That's every you know, it's old school in the village still. The property has a card. And so 1967 is a building permit. And that's the house that you see from the 76 aerial. And if you look at the house, you know, it's, I always feel strange saying this because I'm sure it was some, you know, I'm sure Mrs. Janus had some wonderful times there, but it's a totally unremarkable house. And it doesn't meet any criteria whatsoever. You don't know who the architect is, but certainly he wasn't having a very florid day, whoever it was. I mean, it's pretty darn unremarkable. The most remarkable thing about it, of course, is the lovely spot and location of it. But I think this, I'm hoping you'll agree with me. This is not really of any moment at all, and should just quickly, hopefully, be given a certificate of appropriate.
I agree with you, John, completely.
Okay, comments from any other board members?
Thank you, Peter.
Do you have any comments from neighbors?
No. So, John, I think we all agree with you. And we see there are no objections. So I would move that we submit this to written decision to accept well, just to move it to written decision on behalf of the applicant's request to demolish the existing structure 208 Pond Lane. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any nays? There are no nays. So, John, that will go to written decision, as you know, is the procedure.
Thank you.
Thanks.
You are welcome. Good night, Bailey. Are we seeing you again, or that's it?
No, we're on for, I think we have 3 more
Okay.
down the road. We'll
All
talk to
right,
them.
good. All right, we'll see you in a bit. Okay. Now, Kat, just a note to you. My internet may not be entirely stable. If for some reason it goes out, would Sarah, do you want to step in as co-host until I get back on for any reason?
Okay, Jeff, and just one word of advice.
Yes.
If you have a router, if you sit closer to your router, you should have more luck. That's all.
Okay, now I think I will. I may have to move my wife away from her desk, but that's okay. She'll be fine with that, I'm sure. So thank you. Okay, so now we move on to public hearings, non-historic. The first one is that of Woolley Street Properties to construct a 2-story single-family dwelling with attached garage.
Don't we have historic gates?
Yeah, we have Gates.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes. Okay. I was trying to do it without paper. So, okay. Thank you. So driveway historic. The first application is that of Greg and Susan Danilo at 199 Hill Street for driveway gates. And as of just, I think today, Jackie indicated that they requested an adjournment to the March 22nd date. Is that correct, Jackie?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, great. So I move that we accept the applicant's request to adjourn to March 22nd. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Second by Sarah. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, there are no objections. Then so be it. We'll see those folks on the 22nd. The next application for driveway gates in the historic district is that of Chickamauga or Magapog. I say it differently each time and somebody will correct me, I'm sure. At 500 Captain's Neck Lane for driveway gates. So would the applicant for that please identify yourself?
Okay, I'm bringing in Melissa. Now I lost the name. She's coming in. Dedovich.
Okay.
There she is, Jeff.
Good evening.
Oh, hey there, Melissa. How are you?
Good, Jeffrey. How are you?
Good.
It's Chickamauga.
Chicken Mickapoggy. Okay.
So Chickamauga, yes, LLC. I love
Okay.
it. We have affidavits, Jeff.
Thank you. Okay. So you can proceed, Melissa.
Okay, wonderful. I'm here really to present driveway gates for the 2 entrances to the property. It's a large property. We actually gave amended plans. Jackie, can you put them up? Is that possible?
Melissa, no, I'm sorry.
Okay, does everybody have their mini plans?
Yes.
Yes.
Wonderful. Okay, if you look at the plans, then you can see that they're 7 foot high. They're Alaskan yellow cedar, untreated, 50% flow through or visibility. Each of the spokes, the pickets will be 1.5 inches and the space will be 1.5 inches. Of note especially is the fact that the one gate, the service gate, is actually going to be located 60 feet from the street's edge. And the main, I guess the visitor's gate will be 40 feet off of the edge of the street. which means actually the call boxes will be 10 feet closer to at 30 and 50. It's pretty simple. They're going to be allowed to weather gray. And it goes with, I'm sure you've been seeing the work we've been doing on the house. It's been a wonderful historic renovation, restoration we've been doing there. And we feel this goes with the vernacular of the project.
I have a comment. I think it's a foot too high. I think 6 feet is plenty high, but you know, others may have another opinion. But more alarming, this is not transparent at all. If you look at the section, it's 3.5 inches deep, and the slats are canted so that you cannot see through. So, board members, deliberate that.
Yeah, no, I agree with Peter. It looks like it might be all right, as he said, dead on. But then when you see the section B through the gate with the canted wood pickets running horizontally, you're not going to be able to see a thing. So I think something needs to be amended in order to make it more transparent.
I agree. I mean, how it's described, how it's illustrated here is actually a bit deceptive. And I agree, it's too high. It's too much like a blockade, not a gate. And it's just a bit too imposing.
Well, you also have to take into effect.
Mark, do you have any comments?
No, I'm in agreement with all of you. It looks a little more foreboding than friendly.
Can somebody show the camera, please? Thank you.
You're welcome. Well, again, I'd just like to note that perhaps we could, because it is slanted a little bit, perhaps widen it a little bit. It is smaller than the existing gates. I don't know if any of the board members got a chance to look at the existing gates that are there, which are substantially higher. And I think the board should also take into account the fact how far back it is set off from the street. The current gates are right on the property line. These are going to be set in significantly from the street and the property line.
Right, but you still won't be able to see through them.
I can work on that.
Okay.
I can work on that. I don't know if the height, though, I think because of the distance, I think I would ask the board to rethink the height, and I will see what I can do about the spacing.
Okay.
Okay. And I'll admit, Melissa, that I haven't looked at the property. The snow kept me away from my rounds this weekend. One of the things that I've asked, particularly in the historic district, is that there be no outside mechanism. And I know this is set back, so the call boxes, if they could be integrated into the gate itself, would be preferred. But in as much as you're asking the board to go back and look at it in the context of its distance from the street, I owe it to you to do that before I say definitively whether I'm for or against whatever external mechanisms you might have in the drawings. Okay.
I'd appreciate that. It's just because it is one of those luckily rare signs that we actually have the room to set the gates back away from the road, which is unusual. If you look at the other properties, the gates are right up on the property line. This is set back, like I said, the call box for even the closest one is going to still be 30 feet from the edge of the street, you know, and that is more than almost double what's required to be done in that area. So
Right.
if the board could just
yeah.
take another look at that, I'd really appreciate
Okay.
it.
Yep.
And I'll work on the transparency issue.
Okay. So and think about the height as well. You know, it all works together. The height, the transparency, the design that impact the scaling. So with that being said, I move that we accept Melissa's request on behalf of the applicant. Let me see if I can say this.
Chikameka Poggy.
Pog, Chikameka Pog.
Poggy.
Poggy. I want to say.
It took
like,
me a long time.
yeah. I'm going back to Mecca, whatever the heck it was. Okay. All right. So I move that we accept the request of the applicants, the applicant to adjourn for 500 Captain's Neck Lane until our next meeting. Okay. All in favor?
I,
Aye. Any objections? No. So be it. Melissa, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Thank you. Stay safe.
You too. Thanks. Okay. So now, ladies and gentlemen, we can move on to those public hearings for non-historic properties or in the non-historic district, because some historic properties do exist in the non-historic district. It's another story. So the first one is that of Woolley Street Properties. And the applicant has requested as of today to adjourn to the 22nd. So I move that we accept the applicant's request to adjourn to February 22nd. Do I have a second on that?
second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There are no objections. We'll see that applicant on the 22nd. We have the next one is that of M 4950 LLC at 950 Meadow Lane to construct a two-story family dwelling and attached garage and accessory pool. The agenda says adjourned to May 5th, but I think it was intended to be March 5th, but I think it was meant to be March 8th, which would be our first meeting in March. Is that right, Jackie?
That's correct, Jeff. That's a typo. I
Okay.
apologize.
Oh, don't apologize. That should be the worst thing that happens. So in any event, I move that we accept the applicant's request to adjourn to March 8th. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay, we got 2 seconds. Does that mean we have 4? So, but all those in favor, aye.
Aye.
Great, there are no objections, so we'll see those folks on March 8th. Okay, the third application is that of Alyssa or Eliza Fedlund at 60 Cameron Street for a two-story addition and alterations to an existing structure. So would the applicant or applicant's representative please identify themselves?
Okay, I'm bringing in Elisa Fedlund,
Okay,
Lori Fontana,
okay,
Hi,
and also Ali Tamsin is in. I'm not sure why he raised his hand.
okay. Ollie Thompson. Okay, great. So when any of you folks speak, could you please identify yourself and provide your address so that Jackie can take that? And who will be speaking first?
this is Elisa Fadlun. My architect will explain for me on my behalf. You don't want to hear
Okay.
me doing this.
No. So, and who among, I have to open up my screen here. Okay. So Ali or Lori, who will be speaking? Lori, you're muted.
I'm sorry. Lori Fontana from McDonough & Conway Architects, 3760 Expressway Drive South, Suite 200, Islandia.
Okay,
So with
great. So Lori, if I might, we found that it's helpful to just review. When you were here last, there were issues regarding, or at least concerns, the significance of this structure as a historic representative of a four-square architecture. And there was concern that the proposal that was originally put forward took away from that historic integrity. There was also issues around a light wall being out of character with the neighborhood and the rest of the house. There were issues of privacy and light pollution concerns related to that. There were some questions about the front door. And thinking that perhaps that should remain as is. There were some issues around the double stack windows and then around the new gable going west of the pyramid roof. So if we could focus on how you folks address those, I think that'll help
So with-
expedite the process.
With your permission, I'd like to share my screen.
Sure.
And while you're doing that, I'd like to ask Jeff, the Ali Tamsin has his hand up as a panelist.
Okay.
Asked him to unmute so he can speak, but he's not doing that.
Yes,
Okay. There he is.
we are doing,
Okay.
okay. How about now? Do you hear us?
Very good.
Yes, we do, Ali.
Perfect. Is it my turn now?
That's up to you and Lori and Eliza.
Yeah, ours will be very brief. We live on 196 Meeting House Lane. We have been here for over 20 years.
Oh, I'm sorry. Are you the architect? I'm
I'm the
confused.
owner of the house, the next neighbor.
Oh, okay. So you're speaking as part of making a public comment. Okay. So right now, Ali, we hear our procedures. We hear from the applicant. Then the board has a chance to comment. Then the applicant has a chance to rebut the board's comments, and then we open it up to public comments. So you would be in that fourth segment, okay?
Is it going to be tonight?
Yeah. No. This is all within the next, hopefully the next 5 to 10 minutes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So hang in there.
Okay.
Jeff, it's Jackie. I don't mean to interrupt. I'm sorry. Dr. Tamsin, the case
What's
that
that?
you were interested in is
Oh,
the
I
next one.
froze.
Okay, thank you.
I'm going to put Ali back and I'll bring you back in, Ali. Make sure you raise your hand during public comment for that matter.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay, so based on the comments from the last time we were here, if you look where my hand is on the screen, this is the existing front elevation, and this is the new proposed front elevation where we left the door exactly where it was as per request. We are requesting to replace the windows in kind, and the addition will be right here. If you look at the existing, there is an existing wraparound porch that we're now going to make into a 2-story element, keeping the same roof line, the hip on the side. And then when you come around this side, this is what is existing on the house, and this is what we propose. There is no 2-story wall of glass anymore. There's windows here in the staircase. But they are minor. We removed this door, made it into a window. Because of the staircase, we raised this window up. And we made the windows that were right here slightly larger and added a window here. So now on this side, this element right here, which is that 2-story element that you're seeing from the side, this is the amount of glass we're proposing and the removal of these doors. And so that's this side. So if I go to the rear, this is what is existing as of now. This is also, we're proposing removing this back deck and enclosing it in as living space. There is no patio. It's a Juliet balcony where it's just light into the master bedroom. On this side of the house, which is the driveway side, we're proposing to remove this existing window here, replace the windows in kind, and so this is our proposal, which I think is a drastic change from what was presented the last time. As far as the pool house is concerned, pool house / garage, we were proposing enlarging the, this is the existing, with an existing sliding door. We were taking out the single door and replacing it with a 12-foot sliding door. So that's what we came back with as proposal to your comments.
I'll start, shall I? May I start, Jeff?
I think we may have lost him, so go ahead, Sarah.
He froze.
Okay.
He went on the table.
I maintain that this elevation interferes somewhat with the nice 4-square facade. I also think that for want of a better expression, homogenizing all the window openings, you lose the idiosyncratic nature of an historic building. 2 by 2 by 2 by it becomes repetitive, and one of my biggest objections is that the proposed rear elevation is still, although better, is still provides far too much light pollution in this densely packed area. I walk down Walnut Street all the time and with walking my dog, or up Pine, and so I'm well aware of what a visual impact this will make. You can see the rear elevation of the Cameron Street house down behind 3 or 4 of the buildings on Walnut Street. And I think at night, this will be particularly literally glaring for the people who live on Walnut Street. Because it is so densely packed there, it may provide the same qualities that provide light for your client's bedroom will also shed light on the adjoining neighbors. And above all, the second story, it will be it'll be pretty glaring. So that's all I have to say.
Okay. Can I address your comments as we go so that I don't miss any?
Lori, I'd prefer if we hear all the comments from the board, and then that way, to the extent you can take notes, that would help a bit. Other board members?
Yeah, I find the west elevation unfortunate. If you cut back the second floor landing and didn't return it to that window, you could keep that window that straddles the floors, which is kind of charming. And because that's what I object to. It's all lined up. It's like you lost the charm, you lost the quirk. And then I think the front elevation is fine. I think the massing of the rear is fine. I think putting the triple windows, lower where you have the triple kitchen windows on the right side, which is really the west side, makes sense. And then if you go to the other side, the left side, or what is the east side?
East.
Yeah. Again, that window in the front bedroom, you could keep that if instead of having one long closet, if you did a desk flanked by 2 smaller closets, you could keep that window. Just a little more of the fabric intact. Those are my comments.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I'm not sure. Sorry, one more. I'm not sure about the double windows in the second bedrooms back.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. You'd want bigger windows. You do lose that nice triple that you have on the existing second floor, the triple single windows. But maybe someone else has more to say.
Did we hear from, because my computer froze for a few moments. I'm not sure. Did we hear from Mark and John?
John?
Yeah, I think it's a vast improvement from where we started the last time. Not that the original house was inappropriate, it just wasn't in keeping with the neighborhoods. That was really what that was all about. So I think from that perspective, it's much better than it was. And even the addition, the fact that it's set back from the front of the house still keeps the 4 square more or less intact. So that, I don't have so much of an issue with. The only thing that still looks a little overwhelming is the windows in the back. I mean, now that the rest of the house has been kind of unified and, toned down a little bit from the windows and so forth, the back just seems still so much glass. And that's, I agree with Sarah that could be an issue from a light pollution standpoint, but it also seems to be in contradiction to the rest of the design of the house to some degree. And that's it.
Mark, had we heard from you?
You haven't heard from me. I agree with, I like the quirkiness, the window quirkiness of the existing, and my one concern was the large amount of glass in the back of the house, so I would echo that concern.
All right. So Lori, you've heard the comments from the board, which echo mine as well. So the floor is yours to respond.
Okay, so let's deal with the rear elevation first. We would be willing to reduce the second story windows to just 2 of the 4 if we could keep the first floor as is, if that would be a concession. That's one. And as far as the layout in the bedroom was important to them. It is on the driveway side, which, it's not that easily seen. I mean, I was on the property and I had a hard time getting the angle of the picture so that I could actually get the whole side. So I would request your indulgence on that. And if we go back to this, the quirkiness of the windows, just let me run back to the floor plan just for a second.
Yeah, you don't have to have that landing go to the window. It could just go straight back to the bedroom wall on the second floor, and then that window could stay where it is.
If Elisa doesn't have an issue with that, we would
Absolutely fine with me.
we would be willing to concede that window also.
Great.
Yeah.
Great.
I think with the changes with the rear elevation, I think I'm fine with it.
I have to echo the sentiment that I appreciate how much you listened to the last meeting and brought them into these drawings.
So with your approval, we will keep this window, the small, offset in lower, and we will go to the rear, change these to double 6-foot wide window doors versus the 12. And we request that we are allowed to leave this layout for the bedroom due to the location of where it is on the property.
I'm not sure. I don't know. Sarah, what do you think about the east elevation?
Well, I would prefer it not, but it has come a long way. I feel that the more of the original window to wall ratio and the more historic fabric we could retain, the better. I welcome the elimination of 2 of the flanking windows in the rear elevation. I also wonder if if any of the neighbors happen to be listening in, if they want to comment.
Right. There are a couple of folks who've raised their hands for public comment. So I'm going to ask, are there other further comments from the board?
Not from me.
All right. So Lori, what we're going to do is we're going to open the floor to public comment, and then both the board and you can address those comments. Okay, Kat, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, I'm bringing Ruth Golan in.
Okay.
it switches over, she'll be in.
And then is Ally still there as well?
He's on the next, yep.
Okay, Sarah, he's on the next one, right?
No, I think he's on this one.
This one?
Oh, no, Lewis, I think he said.
Yeah, I believe he came in early.
Okay. All right, so Ruth,
Hi,
you are the public.
Hi,
great,
Ruth.
thank you. Thank you, public. And
Please
thank you-
identify yourself and your
Yeah,
address, please.
I will, thank you. Thank you for allowing me to speak. My name is Ruth Golan, and I'm the owner of 50 Cameron Street, which is directly to the west of the property that we are talking about at 60 Cameron Street. And I have just a number of things that I'd like to point out. The house itself currently looks fairly bulky, and my concern is not only as it relates to me, but the west perspective, I think, is one of the most important perspectives of the house, because it's the perspective that people driving down Cameron Street, which is a one-way street, which goes from west to east, you notice that house very much so. And also, if you're walking down the street on Cameron Street, you notice the west side of the house. Now, unfortunately, the neighbor took down the tree next door. So now what you have is a much broader perspective of the west side landscape and of the west side of the house. So it's much more noticeable. And the tree that was taken down was on the west side and fairly close to the start of the property. So in other words, it hid a lot of these windows that we are right now, what is being proposed to be added. So it certainly adds a lot more light pollution now that there is, the tree has been removed. That's one concern. The other concern I have is that it's a second story. It's already been through one major renovation in the last couple of years. And now this is the second proposed renovation. Granted, it's under a different owner, but it is, another renovation, which, is from an environmental perspective, something to think about. In addition, the addition here, before you took the second floor addition, and when it was on the table, while it wasn't aesthetic, it was 1,250 square feet, and now we're going up to 1,290 square feet. So it's another, it's another basically 100 foot on the second floor that they're adding, and it looks out of proportion in general, the first floor to the second floor already. So my concern is also with that addition. And again, it's not only because I'm on the west side, but also everyone walking down Cameron Street. This will also be very noticeable. It has become now like the second biggest building on the whole property on the whole street. And then, I would just also like to add, when I looked at, some of the numbers, I believe what's allowed to go up to for a second story is 35 feet. And right now what's proposed is 34, and 6.5 inches. So I just feel the margin of error when you're looking at, such a growth property of several hundred square feet, 2,000 plus square feet, you're looking at, a very small margin of error for that roof to get it right, so that it isn't really higher than it really should be. I mean, that's like a very low margin of error, what is it? Just a couple of inches. The other concern I would say is also when you look at the gross floor plan of the whole property, again, what's allowed is 3,170. And right now what's being proposed is 3,165. So you're telling me over 3,165, 5 feet of that is completely within margin. Like there is no margin of error here, basically, on all those different things, which doesn't sound to me very, I don't know. I'm just curious if that's really as accurate as it is. Maybe there's a couple of extra centimeters here and there and there and there. And you look at all of that, and it's just it's just a very overwhelming property given the lot size. So, and I would say that adding this addition, takes it to another level, which I would just leave it, where it is. And then obviously, I think on the last call, they spoke about, changing the interior and maybe changing some of the windows, but not to this extent. Thank you so much for hearing me.
Okay, good. And thank you for your comments as well. some of the things you touched on are within our purview, and several of them are not. So the Architectural Review Board stands between what's allowed and what should be built. Several of the things you mentioned were in the allowances of what can be built. And that's not our purview necessarily. We look at it from an architectural standpoint and from a Gestalt perspective, if you will. So whether something is within 1 inch or 1 yard of what's acceptable, that's allowed. And it's up to the building department to scrutinize the actual work. And the building department does that. Would we like them to have more staff to do more of it on a regular basis? Yes, but they do. And they are not shy of issuing stop work orders and having builders stop or reconstruct construction if it doesn't meet what's in the plan. So that's within the building department. The qualitative issues as to the view and the scaling are those things which this board can and does and has addressed. And I think that summarizing the sentiment of the board is, yes, we love history. And if we had our druthers, we'd like to see the house stay exactly as it is. At the same time, we live in an environment where we have to be understanding and respectful of owners' rights to make their house habitable within the guidelines and within the approval and judgment of the board. I think the sentiment of the board is that the applicant has done a good job to this point. I think the scaling, yes, we recognize it's larger than what was there, but to the extent that this board can influence the architect and the applicant to create something that is as harmonious as possible, I think they've moved a long way there. Board members, I don't want to put words in your mouths, but would any of you care to address what Ruth was talking about? Yes, Sarah.
Having heard the applicant and having heard that a tree has been removed, and so therefore that west elevation is even more apparent. That plus looking again at the west elevation, which is proposed versus the west elevation that's existing. At least when the additions were made, there was some attempt to step back from the front foursquare. The massing is not as insistent as the proposed. There is a dormer that breaks up the roof expanse, and indeed the roof line steps down and is lesser than the original roof line. I still maintain that this addition, although it's set back, is still an impediment. Basically, it competes still almost a whole bay with the original 3-bay foursquare facade, and all those great strides have been made. When you add up the entirety, this new is comparable in weight with the original. And so I'm still disinclined to say yay. That makes sense?
Yes, thank you, Sarah. Did we lose Jeff again?
Is there another member of the public?
Is there any member of the board that wants to weigh in for a second comments based on the neighbors' comments?
I'm looking at the site plan for a second, so. So currently on there's a patio that extends from the house almost all the way to the property line currently on the, is that the case?
It appears to be on the, would the architect,
On the west side, right?
on the
Yeah.
west side, would the architect like to talk about that?
It's actually a stone on grade patio. It's not above grade.
But it's masonry coverage.
It's existing. It's always been there.
And am I right in thinking that there's recently been basically a parking surface added to the front of the site?
Yes.
Yes, we did ask permission. Sorry if I interrupt. I will also explain about the tree. So the tree, I mean, it was actually really not something we wanted to do because we love the idea of the shade. But the tree had these branches that kept falling, and I had to call someone, and they explained me that it's called a dirty tree, and it's a normal thing, and the branches kept falling, and twice my kids got hurt, and it became kind of my issue, the tree. And actually I asked the landscape to put, she planted something that will grow higher so that we also want privacy. It's not like it wasn't an exciting choice for me. It was kind of something I couldn't avoid in this sense. And yes, the landscaper, we asked permission and to add the asphalt in the front. It's not a parking area, it's a backing up area. And it was done with the permission and everything that is expected. I mean, I signed the paper and I thought I did it right.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And I also wanted to thank you for appreciating that we changed completely the original, excessive renovation that, I didn't know we couldn't do.
Yeah, the front facade, that was.
And the side facade.
And the back and the pool.
I'm just wondering if additional plantings could be made to help,
It will absolutely be I want more green. We really had an issue with the kids keep getting hurt from these branches. But yes, absolutely. Those that we already plant are supposed to grow very tall. And that's what I asked the landscape. And I mean, I can plant, I'll be happy to, I'll make a jungle.
Okay, one other thing that I think will be an issue is the PVC fence. Can it be wood, painted wood?
I'm sorry, which one? I'm sorry.
Oh, the fence. It's on the site plan. It says it's a 6-foot PVC fence.
It exists currently, Peter.
Oh, it does?
Yes.
Okay.
I think at this point you've heard our comments.
Yeah, I have nothing more to say. Thanks. And thanks for listening.
So where does that lead us to? Shall we?
I think we need a motion to adjourn for all purposes because they're at the vote, and then they can come back and represent at the next meeting.
Well, let me ask you this. I'm sorry because I missed out, so I don't want to overstep. But the applicant has heard whatever the comments from the board and from the public, has agreed to make certain changes. So the next step, unless I missed something, is for the applicant to request an adjournment to come back with the changes that they will have made at that point to the comments from the board and the public.
And I would like to see in those plans additional landscaping that would help, with some of the privacy issues on the
All
west
right,
side of the property.
so, all right. So we can include that in the board's request for information. Okay, Lori,
I wasn't aware that your landscaping was a part of the board's purview, but if that is the case.
It is.
Okay, so if that is the case, then I would request an adjournment to make the changes that I indicated that we would make, and a buffer landscaping on that right side.
Okay, all right. With that being said, I move that we accept the applicant's request to adjourn. Lori, is the next meeting in 2 weeks enough time for you to do that, or do you want 4 weeks?
Absolutely.
All right, so, okay. So I move that we accept the applicant's request to adjourn to our next meeting. Do I have a second? And to make changes and to submit a landscape plan. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any objections? No. So be it. So Lori, those have to be in, as you know, the Thursday by the noon, the Thursday before the meeting. So that way the
That's
public,
the 18th, correct?
I don't have a calendar in front of me, so I'm assuming that that's the case. So this way, not only the board, but the public, and that public being Ruth, among others, have a chance to review the plans. Okay?
Okay. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you so
Thank you.
much. And thank you, everybody else. Thank you.
Good night.
Okay,
Good
Mark,
night.
Mark, can you highlight and please make me host again because I was bumped out?
And I make you host again?
Yeah, if you put your cursor on your name and then highlight and make me host, or highlight my name and make me host, one or the other.
Okay, hang on.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Highlight.
Okay.
Okay, hang on. I didn't see that, but okay.
Kat, you tell me when you're ready.
As soon as he passes it to me, I can't do anything.
Hang on. I'm clicking my, what am I doing?
You have to highlight highlight my name and click on make host.
Okay. There you go. Change host.
There it is. Okay, go ahead, Jeff.
Okay, so the next application is that of Charles Falco at 135 Lewis Street to make exterior alterations to the existing dwelling. So would the applicant please step forward, raise your hand, click a button, or do whatever one needs
Charles?
to do?
Charles Lembo is coming in.
Okay,
And I will ask him to unmute.
okay.
Hi, Charles.
Good evening. You can call me Chuck. How are you?
Chuck, okay. Chuck, unless you're concerned wherever you are about spreading germs, I think we're pretty safe on this side of the screen.
There were people here before, but they're gone.
Put it back on. No, I'm teasing.
Oh.
Everybody.
I'm teasing. I kid. So, Charles, could you please identify yourself and give us your address, please?
Yes, Charles Lembo, an architect. Offices at 410 West Montauk Highway, Lindenhurst, New York.
Okay, great. So, Charles, as I'm sure your client has made you aware, that you've been here, the applicant has been before us a couple of times. There was considerable concern about the change of the roof line on the southwest elevation. There was concern about a basement stairway on the east elevation. There was a general concern about loss of charm, replacement of materials, or at least not being clear that the materials were being kept in kind or being restored or retained. And the plan did not include all the details in terms of the trim. So it was a little hard for us to decipher exactly at that point, and there were those concerns I mentioned. So if you can address what has changed and how you've addressed those concerns of the board.
Okay, sure. So yeah, I have reviewed the video of the last hearing, so I understand what the concerns were. The project now is basically, it's an interior alteration to an existing 3,000 square foot structure. They are converting the garage to living space. They're proposing to add sets of glass doors on the facades that face the rear patio that you don't see from either of the streets. They are looking to replace the windows with replacement windows of similar size and material, colors to match what's already there. They're not proposing to change any of the exterior elements or finishes. So they're planning on keeping the stone around the entry door, the wood trim that's existing, giving it that Tudor style, and the outside finishes and colors are all proposed to be the same. The garage doors, I believe it was an issue that they wanted to remove the garage doors. It was requested that they keep them in and just finish the interior with a wall, and that's what is going to happen now. That's what's proposed. Touched on the windows. Yeah, the biggest deal was from what I got at the last hearing was the request for an upper roof deck. That has been completely eliminated at this point, and there is no proposal to change any of the existing roof lines. I know it was favored that we keep that sloping roof, that curving roof line that faces into that patio area. That's all going to stay. We're not requesting anything be done with that. Regarding the egress stair, though, this is a situation where it's required by code because I need a second means of egress out of the proposed finished basement. And because of the way the foundation of this building is designed, existing, the areas that surround the rest of the perimeter of the house are all crawl space areas. There really is no other place to put this egress stair that's required by the New York State Building Code. What we are proposing, however, is that it would only be accessed from the rear yard, so it would be fenced off. There would be a hedgerow in front of it, 4 to 5 foot boxwoods to block it from the street. Along the property line on Lewis, we're looking to do 10 to 12 Lehman cypresses. This would help screen the yard and the stair, which, by the way, the stair is at grade. It's just a railing. The stair would be blocked from the street by these cypresses, and this is also going to give my client some more privacy because the emergency room entrance to the hospital is directly across from the property. And then, so that they're proposing landscaping there along the steps, and on the west side of the property, on the side yard where there's currently only a fence, we were proposing to do a new 6-foot privet hedgerow to supplement that fence as well. So I think we've addressed all the concerns that I could that the board had at the last hearing. Again, the only issue being the stair, which unfortunately is required by code, and also because my client, they have children and they know they're going to be down in this recreation and playroom in the basement. And, in case of an emergency, obviously they want them to be able to get out without any other kind of issue.
Sure. Okay. Board members, in no particular order.
I just have a few questions on the roof. I know that there was that part that was removed where that deck was being, considered. It was already being demolished. Is the roof there and the entire roof going to be slate as it currently stands, or?
Yeah, no, the renderings that you see now, the latest ones that were supplied, are what's proposed. We're not looking to change anything.
All right. So, and that includes the timbers that are part of the exterior ornamentation of the house. And
correct. We're not proposing to touch any of that.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, and I did notice on the plan that they do say what Chuck had said, that the slate roof would be repaired where it needed repairs, replaced where it needed to be replaced, but it would all remain as a slate roof.
Correct.
And the same is true of the detail work, the wood and the stucco. Correct, Chuck?
Correct, yes.
Oh, Mark, you're on mute.
Yeah, are you retaining the original shape of the front door with the stones around?
That's correct, yes.
You sort of skimmed over the fact that you've changed some of the window configurations. The existing southwest elevation shows a single double hung sash, and the proposed south elevation shows what look like 4 window and door trim casings instead. Am I correct?
Yeah, the only proposed changes to the fenestration are on the first floor, and it's the one set of glass door side lights that's coming out of what was the garage that is now converted to interior space onto the patio in the rear yard. And then adjacent to that, back here there's a breakfast room and a sitting room. Those are also proposed to be in the breakfast room. It's another double set of doors with equal size side lights. And then
Chuck, do you have the ability to share a screen?
on,
Why don't you do that?
Not really, but I can hold it up in the air. I mean, I can
Okay.
go, old school like a caveman here. Hold on a second. So
Yeah, these 4 that had once been a single double hung sash window.
this
Yeah.
over here?
No, from the former garage.
Okay.
Yeah, I was pointing that one out.
Right, so that's now going to be interior space that's all converted, so they wanted, to put these doors out onto the patio.
Right, but I wanted to point out that fenestration was being changed.
Oh, yeah, no, I mentioned that earlier, I thought, yeah, it's these sets of windows here, this door here, and then flanking the existing fireplace.
So on either side also of the garage, which had just double hung sash windows, these openings are being enlarged.
Correct.
You're enclosing the porch. There was a open porch in the rear elevation, which is one of the characteristics of the Tudor Revival style. I wonder if rather than having a solid wall there where the roof slopes down, if that could be glass instead, because
this area here?
Yeah, because then that would at least provide more of an openness that would somewhat mimic the loss of the porch, and perhaps
Right,
and perhaps the enfrainment that went, that now sort of dead ends there could be continued.
So we could wrap the glass around
Yeah.
to give it that feeling of like a porch, an actual porch.
Yeah.
Right?
I think that would help retain some of the original openness.
Understood, sure, okay.
I don't know if anybody agrees with me.
No,
on
I
that.
agree. I think it should look like the existing porch got glassed in.
Right.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You can see the original lines of the open porch and then should you see glass going to fill up the opening.
And you have right
Mhm.
now, you have a timber member that could be retained so that it does look like the porch was glassed in.
But the horizontal member from the, yes, understood.
Yeah, the other thing you changed is you did remove the side door. Because there's a side door that went in to the right of the Bilco door. And there's a gang of windows there that's a fenestration change from original.
Hello,
If you go left of the driveway where the Bilco door is currently, there's an entrance to what is the current kitchen. You guys have removed that. So right now, if you park your car, you either walk around the house.
Okay.
Yeah, you either walk around the house to the back or you walk.
Yeah, that door's going to be maintained. You can't see it. It's on the floor plans. You can't see it at the angle of of that one rendering. Let me see if it's anywhere else.
I don't see it on the floor plan.
It's there. Hold on.
I see a shower.
So there's the Bilco door. There's the bathroom. There's the door you're talking about next to where the garage doors were. There's a door right here.
Yeah.
That's the door that they're looking at, that's gonna stay. Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, it's, or else there's no way to access the house from
I
that
hear you.
driveway side.
The plans I have from February, were there another, did you guys submit another set of plans after February 4th?
No, I don't think so.
I don't believe so.
Because the plan that I have shows a shower.
No, to the immediate right of that, there's it says front entry door going into the living room to the left side of what would have been the garage door.
On my plan, it says that, but there's no drawing of a door. All I see are the two garage doors.
Yeah, same here. You know, I think that also it'd be helpful if you put the existing elevations on the same sheet as the proposed, right above the other or next door to each other, so we can see. Okay, it's very difficult. I mean, because, you know, if we go there, we can't even see what's there because a lot of it's been ripped out. So, you know, you're not making it easy.
Okay.
I actually think that existing door is where's the bath. It looks
Could you clarify just what has been ripped out exactly? Because I'm told they didn't.
You know, you tell us, Chuck, you know, the drawings are confusing. You have to show your drawing.
So Chuck, you coming in a little bit after the fact, so.
I'm coming in late to the game here. These are not my drawings, so, you know.
Right. We understand. So typically, I should say, what works best for us.
I'm sorry, but who does the drawings?
Peter, let me just finish
the person who does the drawings.
Peter, let me just finish my thought,
Sure.
please. So what works best for us when we're looking at renovations or changes is to see the proposed against the existing. This was complicated. Not only were those not present and not made available after we requested them 2 times, that construction or demolition had gone on. So you're bearing the brunt of some of your predecessors, and I'm not casting any stones, it's just the facts of what was done. So what Peter is asking, and rightfully so, is drafting that shows existing and proposed against existing. And I know that might seem like after the fact, but that's what we need. There were some questions as opposed to other architectural features in the drawings. And then there were some changes that, or comments that the board put forward, and I heard you acquiescing to or agreeing to. So it sounds like there's some drawings that have to be submitted for our next meeting. And Peter or other board members, if I miss anything, by all means, let Chuck know. So when he comes back the next time, we'll have the drawings that we need, plans that will satisfy everybody, and we can proceed so he can build.
Yes.
I have a question.
Sure.
Pictures worth 1,000 words. Is there a reason why the walkout to the basement could not go on the wall behind the kitchen, so it faced the backyard instead of the front street? I realize it would make that part of the patio smaller, but then it would be even more private to the house and not visible to the street.
There's a crawl space in the way, in the foundation. Yeah, and so you have a thicker foundation there, and then you have the fact that that's the patio where 90% of the patio related activities are going to take place. I'm thinking I don't want to lose that. That would affect the doors coming out of and the glass coming out of the back of the garage. It really doesn't really work anywhere else but where we're showing it. I was hoping that the fence and the double row of landscaping would alleviate the board's concerns, because you really are not going to see it from the street.
I tend to agree with you, Chuck. I don't have a problem with the stair because you are screening it, and it would be in the way, for living. If you put it back there, it would be in the way. So.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right.
90%, right?
What's that?
I think we're 90% there. We just.
Yeah, yeah. So Chuck, you've come a long way, baby. So in any event, for those of a certain age, they remember that commercial. But
I do, unfortunately, yeah.
So in any event, Chuck, you are asking us then for an adjournment to the next session, I assume?
Yeah,
That sounds good to you. All right, good. And
so existing and proposed elevations for next time, clarifying that, and then the changes to the elevation to show that addition to look more porch-like, like it's been screened in, glass.
Good.
Understood. Okay,
And the location of the side door.
right. That'll be on the, I will clarify all that.
okay, great. All right, so I move that we accept the applicant's request for Charles Facco at 135 Lewis Street to adjourn to our next meeting. Do I have a second? Good. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Great. Hey, thanks, Chuck. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. Take
Thanks.
care.
Okay. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Okay.
Wasn't there somebody who was going to weigh in on that?
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. Ally, did we miss you? So was there any public comment on that? If I did, I'm sorry, Ally.
How about, do you hear me now?
Yes.
I do. Technically, we need to move to reopen the application for public comment.
That's
Do I have
okay.
a second on that?
Yeah. Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay,
Aye.
aye,
Aye.
aye. Alice, I don't know if we did that according to Hoyle, but Ally, let's hear your input. And if we've already covered it,
Is Chuck still on?
no, Chuck is still back there?
Oh, there he is.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
good,
So
good,
this way
good.
you can hear from the public. Sorry about that, Ally. Sorry,
That's
Chuck.
all right, no problem.
Ally, go ahead.
Yeah. we are
First,
living-
identify yourself and give us
Yeah,
your address,
this is-
please.
Yep, this is Ali Thompson, 196 Meeting House Lane, next to the building. It was, to be honest with you, there were a lot of concerns when we heard that the structure or the work that was going on there had no work permit to
Mhm.
start with. And then following that, the construction person, one of them, Mike, came and says they're going to build a balcony. It was, we couldn't understand how that possibly can happen, but thanks to Chuck, I guess it's not going to happen. And thanks to the board.
Yeah, I know.
Well, the building inspectors as well. So, all right, so then I hear positive things. So let's, unless I'm missing something, Ally, we appreciate your input. And whenever you see something, say something. So that's good. Chuck, thanks for listening.
Sure.
And if there are no further comments from the public, then I will move again to adjourn this application to our next meeting.
Thank you.
Second.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I have a second? Okay, we do. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
No nays. Chuck, we'll see you in a couple of weeks.
Okay, great.
Okay.
Thank you.
And maybe I'll,
And,
thank you.
yeah, and you don't have to wear a mask. You look good. Okay.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
All right. So the next application, let me get to my screen here, folks. And for those who are in the audience, thank you for your patience. Is that of Joseph and Philippa Colvin at 55 Old Town Crossing.
Was there anything new submitted for this property this week? Because I still have just the original plans.
I didn't get any.
I didn't see anything.
So let's see if anybody is there from the applicant.
I don't see any hands, Jeff.
No, I just see John Bennett's screen name is still on, but I don't know if this is his project or not.
I didn't get any new plans for this. I do believe the architect's intent was to submit for the next meeting.
Okay.
But I don't
All
have
right.
a procurement letter either.
All right, so we will adjourn, what's the expression, with no prejudice, or Alice,
Move on to the next application.
You can adjourn on your own motion.
We're adjourning
Okay.
the paperwork.
So I move that we adjourn the application of Joseph and Philippa Colvin at 55 Old Town Crossing to our next meeting on February 22nd.
Second.
Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay.
Aye.
All those in favor? Aye. No
Aye.
nays? Great. Okay. So the next one is that of Craig Goldberg at 258 Toilsome Lane for two-story, single-family dwelling with attached garage and accessory pool house. Anybody speaking on behalf of them? Yes.
Yeah, it's John Bennett for the applicant, Bennett and Reed, 212 Windmill Lane, and Josh Rosenberg and Tim Ganettis from Austin Patterson Diston. Always happy to work with Austin Patterson, a great group of people. So the board has seen this before. I'm going to let Josh and Tim talked about most of it, but just a couple of pertinent things. Originally, this had, there was a somewhat larger structure which was going to service as a garage on this. The board has essentially approved this house without the garage in the front. We've scaled that back dramatically, but it's important to remember, and this is very important, and it's going to become important, as you'll see, that the board has essentially approved this house with the following exceptions. The garage in the front now with the, you'll see has a small connector, so it's actually part of the house. Tried to make that smaller than what was originally proposed. And then in the back, the house was approved with a large central outside deck. It was already approved with that. So what we've done now is we've taken that away. No rail, no capacity for that central section to have a deck on it. There was some concern about the neighbors from that. And we've replaced it with two, I don't know, I always stumble over I think I know what I'm talking about when I talk about architectural definitions, but I'll just take a shot at it. I guess they're sort of like Juliet balconies on either side. There's a bedroom and a master bedroom of much less square footage than has been already approved on that central deck. I know the neighbors had some concern, or still has some concern about view shed into her pool in particular. And both Josh and Tim are going to tell you that not only that have we there's a significant existing screening, both deciduous and evergreen, but also the line of sight based upon where we took the drone shot, and they'll explain that to you. Just doesn't allow you to see, because of the height that you're at from that Juliet balcony into the pool. The pool is just too close to our client's house. But I'll just wanted to foreshadow some of that for you.
Okay.
Number one, and number two, and this is really important, and I just have to bring this to your attention. This house is approved for construction. You know, the garage aspect of it aside, with unquestionably dark black window frames. We've tried, I spent a lot of time with the client trying to get some sort of a different, maybe not quite as black. We went to a dark brown, you'll see it. But it's really important, and I think you really want to speak to Alice about this, because there's a line of cases, because I watched the last video. There's a line of cases starting with a case called Knight versus Amelkin, and then actually one of its progeny has the name Rickenbacker in it, which is the East Hampton mayor, which Allison, though. And in that case, you can only, once you make a decision, and this case talks about similar properties, not just, but it's even more prevalent for the actual property, this very specific property with the decision. Unless there's some significant change of facts, you can't, you're bound by stare decisis. It's only, in effect, it's an administrative stare decisis. You can't change your mind. And the reason I'm saying this to you is that I thought I heard some sort of colloquy, and I apologize, I wasn't there, but at the last meeting in which someone said, well, this is a new board. New personnel is not a change of circumstances. Thank goodness, because I don't want to be playing the, limping along, playing the flute with the drummer and everything. But one of the great things about this country is we're a country of laws and not of men. So if you make a decision, if someone makes a decision, thank goodness, you're bound by that unless you can show some change in circumstances, and mere change in personnel is not a change of circumstances. This board, so that people can make predictions and go on about their lives, informed decisions about their lives, and about their treasure.
John, we're familiar with I was going to say, we're familiar with, at least the chair is familiar with the issues around stare decisis and its application. What I'd like to suggest, and it's duly noted, what I'd like to suggest is that we take a look at the application, the changes that have been made to address that, and then let's view it in its entirety. And again, we hear what you're saying, but this is not the venue to argue that.
Well, no, it is.
Okay, I said one word too many, so
yeah,
it's duly noted. And let's take a look at the application.
I agree.
John, could I just ask when was the original application? To my knowledge, it was like October 1919. It was like my first meeting or something like that.
Josh, you may have that info, right?
Just the paper here. We're checking our logs for you there. And by the way, as we get that date for you, just to Mr. Chairman, members of the board, nice to see you all. It's Josh Rosenzweig of Austin Patterson Distant Architects, as well as my associate Tim Ganettes from Austin Patterson Distant Architects of 44 Quogue Street in Quogue,
right.
Also of 376 Pequot Avenue in Southport, Connecticut. I believe there's also somebody from our office of Connecticut also listening in, Tiffany Burke. I just wanted to make the proper introductions and say hello to everybody. Hi.
Hi.
And we're looking that information up for you now.
My recollection was that just being dazzled by the idea of a car vault.
Oh,
and,
right.
Yes.
And I couldn't wait to see what that looked like, and I wondered whether it was going to be an anthill and whether the car would come out with ants in it.
Was the car vault in the original submission, or was a garage in the original?
No, there was a garage in the original submission. The car vault came after. Here,
the original submission was made.
My recollection is there was a garage in the front of in the front yard in the original submission.
Correct.
It was turned down by the board. You guys came back with the idea to do a subterranean garage.
Right.
That's right.
A lot of discussion about what it would cost and whether it was really possible given the water table there.
Right.
The board was assured that it was. Then you guys apparently did construction cost analysis, and it was more than you thought. And now we're back again with the garage in the front yard.
Actually,
Much
It was all approved. Why are we here?
Okay.
That's my question.
All right, let's go ahead, guys. Show us what you got.
I'm sorry, John, is it okay, or did you want to say?
No, I just wanted to say it's a smaller garage, Mark.
All right, so Tim, you guys have the ability to and Josh to share screens.
Yes, we do. Can everybody see our screen?
We can now. Yep.
Yes.
Okay, so we're going to start with some renderings, and we're going to go through it. And actually, yes, today we are here in response to what I thought were very helpful comments by the board members last time in January. And we actually took those comments back with us and we looked at some new ways to approach the garage. And I think that we're all better for it because I think the application currently is actually much more improved in terms of its relationship to the garage. So if the board remembers at the last hearing, we sort of looked at the attached garage and thought perhaps it made too close contact with the overarching structure. And perhaps it was blending in too much. And we looked at it and we agree. We made mention of the possibility of creating an enclosed glass breezeway, which connected what we consider now a smaller pavilion, which now sits to the north of the main structure and is connected via a 13-foot glass enclosed breezeway. There's enough separation now. This particular drawing that you're seeing, I actually prefer more than the rendering to some degree, because you can actually see that there is a separation. And I think it's a nice separation because now when you approach this from the streetscape, you can see that the overarching structure is able to enjoy, I think, what's very nice about its classical proportions, symmetrically about the front door. You can now sort of see both wings of the home taking shape. And this otherwise complementary detached garage is now pulled to the north. So again, I have nobody else to thank besides our team and your comments for that, because we think this is a much more improved design. And let's go to the rendering quickly too, because again, I thought this drawing showed it better, but just to give you a little bit more context from the rendering, okay, you can sort of see now that top rendering, that north elevation, you can see the detached garage, which by the way, is much smaller than that original, the attached garage that in the original proportions is secondary to the primary structure, which I think is very important. And the connector, which makes it an attached garage, is quite transparent, which shares with all the other axes and transparencies of the home. I'd like to also look at the context of this on the streetscape, which I believe was some of the requests from the board members, and switch to a different page. Just 1 second, please. We're going to switch to a little bit of a legend that shows the surrounding properties and the streetscape, and Tim's going to walk you through that for a second.
So on this sheet, we have prepared photographs of the streetscape of the homes that have frontage on Toilsome Lane and included a rendering marked by my cursor of the subject property. And please note that the existing 15-foot hedge that's in front of the property is not rendered in this view, to show that there's a variety of styles present in the immediate area, and that more than half of the properties that were shown on the key are 2 to 2.5 story homes. We also did a streetscape study of Wyandanch, the immediate block of Wyandanch, Hunting Street, and Pierpont Street, also showing a variety of architectural styles and a predominance of 2 to 2.5 story homes.
So, you know, in an effort for us to really, you know, take the renderings and the drawings and put them in context with the surrounding properties, it's important to really think about Toilsome Lane, but also the entire context of the neighborhood apart from that and the adjacent streets. And that being said, I'm going to go back now to some of the other refinements to the overall presentation of the architecture. So we're going to switch now to perhaps ARB-5, which everybody has in their documents, but we'll put it on screen. So this is part and parcel to the removal of the large public deck above the center axis of the building. As you all have probably realized now, having heard it a few times, as suggested by the board, we have eliminated the large gathering deck entirely. It is completely out of our scope. There will not be any ability to use that space. We still have our smaller decks that complement the master suite and the guest suite on the southeast and southwest side, but we wanted to do what we said, which was to come back to you with some lines of sight and site studies of how the views would essentially be taken in by any of the easterly or westerly or southerly views and neighbors, because of course there should be a consideration in the way of planting and also the sight lines. Now, I like this particular, we have a couple of different medias that we're going to show you today in terms of how this has been accomplished. This one is one of my favorites because it actually shows relevant architectural data, datums, elevations, the first floor, second floor, roof height alike. And I know that, you know, you see it all the time, but these can be a little bit more powerful than just an image because you're looking at actual axes and sight lines and cones of vision. And this particular diagram at the top, and Tim, I'll let you take it through it, but you can see the existing conditions that we've measured from existing evergreen and deciduous trees and hedge have all been field verified by Austin Patterson Distant architects on site relative to the surveys. No, just to the time. You could see particularly the person, I'm just going to zoom in there a little bit. Okay, that's better. You can see that there's a figure standing on the master suite balcony, and you can see that the existing hedge of 15 foot tall and the other trees that you can see as per field measurements essentially are setting up for a buffer to the view of our easterly neighbors. Of course, we'll talk about the westerly side as well, to a point where looking through the hedge and over the trees doesn't allow the cone of vision to make landfall for about 184 feet to the east of the property line on the hedge. So I think that while we always look to, you know, create privacy for ourselves and our neighbors, I think this is a powerful image in terms of looking at the fact that just alone the existing evergreens and also deciduous tree lines create very much a buffer and good privacy. Also, if I back up here, you can see a similar study done to the westerly side. And on our site plan, we are showing some additional plantings wherever we have gaps in the existing foliage. Now, I do like this diagram, but I want to take you also to some drone visuals that we did based on coordination from a drone operator who I believe also had written a statement about his process and science relative to this diagram that you're going to see on screen. Yeah, go ahead.
So our client, Craig Goldberg, had hired a consultant to provide drone views at the approximate eye height of an individual standing on the proposed balconies. In the diagram, a thin orange line overlaid over the proposed demonstrates the line of the existing house. The thick green lines and associated dimensions were instructions for the drone operator to be able to triangulate where to fly the drone to get the accurate view of the center line of the proposed second floor balconies, and then the directions from which to take the views.
Here. I can go here and then.
Yeah, we'll start with the east property line. View C. You can see the existing evergreen and deciduous.
I'm sorry, 1 second, please. We're having some technical difficulties. There we go.
You can see the existing evergreen and deciduous screening as well as the 15-foot privet hedge. That is the view into the adjacent neighbor's property. And this drone view D is an angled view showing the same. And then view D is the view E through the backyard.
I'll show the other side west.
On the west side, similar triangulation. There is a bit of a gap here as it's the northeast side of the property, and the existing evergreens were not nearly as tall, as well as they were shading the privet hedge. So in any areas where privacy is needed, we propose to plant cedar trees. They were noted on the site plan. I believe there were 2 proposed in the site plan, but we could always look and see if there is need for one more, if any gaps have appeared.
Yes.
Over the winter.
So where there's not enough buffer, or we think the privacy has been accomplished, we are presenting in gaps of vision to promote, you know, our cedar trees and any other trees that may be necessary. Let me just continue that. Site plan drawing, we'll skip to that. Also, part of the presentation that we wanted to address was a few comments from the board, and that was about the materiality and the renderings. Now, we all know that architectural renderings sometimes just don't do justice to the overall feel and softness of the materials. So we dropped off some samples to the building department for everybody on the call today, so you can take a look at it. And I do believe that they're a little bit softer than some of the presentations. If you can all see what I'm holding up right now, it is a representation of the exterior walls in a white cedar with an Enviro bleach stain, which I believe also you have your own copies that we had dropped off. We also have a small sample of the color of white dove for all the exterior trim. Of course, no PVCs or plastics. This would be mahogany and cedar. And that is the color of that. And also, we have substituted our black trim for a bit of a softer midnight bronze. And seeing the materials together, I think just give a little bit of insight as to the softness, because I know that in some cases, it's not just the actual specific material, but it's the collaboration of materials that sort of create the final presentation. And I just thought that was noteworthy. Go ahead, John. That was the end of our presentation.
I just wanted to interject in terms of that. If I can people hear me?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I understand the concern about the that modern farmhouse look, which was, sometimes you look at some sort of style developing and you realize it's just going to be sort of a signature for a certain 5 or 6 year period. And I agree, it's sort of the thing that sort of became overly common. And the way I saw it, and what, to be honest, became sort of an offense to the eye to me, was as a very extremely white, almost white gloss exterior with a black trim. And so I we spent a long time with going through different iterations to try to get away from that. And hopefully you'll think we're real successful. We sure tried, because I understand, and it's not my job. My feeling or thoughts don't really count, but I understand where some of the board members were coming from with what had become a boringly common. The first time you saw it 10 years ago, that's pretty cool, but I understand it. It had become really mundane and sort of unpleasant. So we really tried really, really hard to get away from that. And I'm just hoping that you'll agree.
Can we start?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, well, John, is your group through with their presentation? If so, then
sorry.
I will open it up to the board for comment.
Sorry, I didn't mean to drink something. I apologize.
It depends on what you're drinking, John.
Earl Grey.
Okay, I'm disappointed, but so in any event, board members, comments?
I'll start. The history, I don't really, it precedes me, and I don't even care. Listen, I think there's no question, look, there was no question the garage in the front yard, I know it's attached, so it's not technically in the front yard, is a clumsy thing. And I think it compromises the beauty of the design. Fortunately, you have really good architects and they have pulled it off, okay? I have no problem with it. I mean, I think it's good looking. I wish it weren't there. I wish you had done the underground thing you would decide you were going to do 3 years ago. But the architects are good. They figured it out, I have to say. I mean, it's awkward and they finessed it. And I think we should appreciate their skill. I have nothing to say about the privacy. I'm convinced, but I'm not a neighbor, and I'm sure we'll hear from them. I do think that perhaps one of the comments from the neighbors was the flat roof over the deck, and I understand it's not a deck anymore. I mean, over the porch. Would you consider a shallow hip roof, and then instead of doing floor to ceiling windows onto that roof, if they had a low sill, 2-foot sill or whatever the sill is typically. And I think that might alleviate the neighbors' concerns. And I think it would actually, again, I'm not supposed to talk about the inside, but I think that having windows to the floor overlooking a tar roof or a metal roof is not so attractive, and you might improve your interior view by raising the sill a little bit.
Other board members?
I have a question. I believe that that garage now qualifies as a front yard accessory building, and I question that it needs to go back to zoning board for a variance.
No, I can respond to that. It absolutely does not. It is joined by habitable space. The only limitation in the village code expressly allows that. The only limitation is that it can only be twice as long as it is wide.
But in the spirit of the village on this street, I still think that in the spirit of not wanting accessory garage buildings in the front yard, this still qualifies as an accessory building in the front yard.
But it doesn't. You can ask your counsel. I'm confident that she'll agree with me. It's not.
I agree with John.
So the question from our standpoint is the scaling of it, which is within our purview. And so to that extent, if that impacts on it, you know, that's well within our ability to comment.
Well, that's a different question.
I understand. That's why I'm making the point. Mark, other comments about the design or look?
The house itself is beautiful. I think you've done a good job addressing the side issues in the back. My only issue is I think having the garage in the front yard, that another board also did not feel appropriate, also makes me feel like it violates the spirit of what the village wants.
Yeah.
Garages in front yards.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yes, Sarah.
I think that the client and the architects have listened, even though basically most of it had already been approved, and I'm grateful for their being so politic about accepting the criticism. I think that the garage is vastly improved, and I think that the transparent link is finessed it beautifully, and the building is the discrete building is better for it. I also believe that the two side balconies, rather than the big one, should address privacy concerns, and the bronze rather than the black has created a better overall design, and what was going to become passé quickly is no longer that. I might add that we have two applications that have black windows, so it really has become rather a tick rather than something that is desirable. So I say thank you.
John, I don't think we heard from you. If you have any comments.
No, I'm very thankful the gargantuan balconies were removed from the back of the house. I think that was a major improvement. And I agree with Sarah. I mean, I think the black window trend has been a pox on the face of the village. And I'm happy to see that there's some moderation in this building, even though it was approved before this board was in place, because it would be a different story now. But that's all I have at the moment.
Okay. John and architectural team, you've heard the board's comments. Any rebuttals or responses on your end?
I'm personally very thankful for all your comments, and we do take pride in listening to you. That's very important to us. This is obviously we have a working relationship with the village that goes back many years. I've personally been in front of the board countless times, and we do take it very seriously. So thank you for all your constructive criticism today, because it makes us feel like the back and forths really, are working.
Okay.
I think that in terms of any of the exterior balconies, I'm not so sure. And again, we are very open to suggestions, as we so always been. I'm not so sure adding a hip roof or something to what should be of the vernacular and vocabularies of more of a flat roof, as you see in the front entry pediment there, that we should add some sort of hip roof to a deck area that, to an area that cannot be used, not only because of life safety issues, but because it would be breaking the rules of the village, which nobody wants to do. So because of those two big things, I don't know if adjusting the architecture to suit what could potentially be done when we wouldn't do that and our clients wouldn't do that is the right response. But that's my only comment, but I'm grateful for all the comments you have all made today.
Yeah, and in relation to that, sort of dovetailing quickly on that, that line of cases, starting with a case entertainingly called Blue Turtles, which is about the Rennert house. You can't assume that the owner is going to violate the law. And that would be a pretty big violation if all of a sudden there became a conforming, almost 4-foot high railing on back of what we're telling you now is simply going to be a flat roof.
Right.
It would be so visible that I think people would be crying foul, and to that extent, it's self-policing. But again, you can't assume that people are going to violate the law.
Right. Okay. Peter, you had made the comment about the hip roof. Any response back to what the architects were talking about?
It's not a design thing. I was just addressing a concern of the neighbor. That's all.
Okay.
And I don't think it's required for design reasons, or I think it looks fine without it.
Right. Okay. So having heard from both sides, what I'd like to do is open it up to public comment. So anybody in the public, please raise your hand or whatever you have to do so Kat can let you in. I think I meant to say raise your hand digitally, Joan, but.
I just brought Peter Noonan in.
Okay.
If he will unmute, he should be in.
You also see some.
Andrew, yes, I'm sorry.
Andrew, also you see some of the other folks who have raised their hand digitally to participate.
That's the only one I see, Jeff.
Oh, I see Joan McGibbon.
Yeah, I'm on.
Okay, all right. Well, let's do Andrew first.
Good evening, Andrew Newman. I live at 101 Hunting Street, directly to the south of the subject property. My wife and I thought the house was beautiful before. We think it's still beautiful. The one thing we do have a question about is the previously approved plan did not show a generator. They're showing a generator now. It's to the farthest spot they can put on the southwest side of the property, which really impacts us, particularly that's on the south side of the pool house, as well as the two neighbors to the west and to the southwest. And we would ask that the generator be moved somewhere where the impact is much less on us.
Okay, so
by the generator, but by the garage.
Yeah, so my guess is, and Alice, you can tell me otherwise, that that's not necessarily an A or B decision.
Not unless the impact is visual. I think most
Right.
general concerns are about noise and, you know.
Right. Exactly. So I think.
Correct. Well, we understand that, but since there's no opportunity to make a comment to the zoning board or planning board, just out of being neighbors, we just wanted to put this forward and see if they would consider moving the generator.
Exactly. So Andrew, I'm not dismissing what you're saying, and I do appreciate you coming before the board and taking the opportunity to present your concerns. So that's a matter, John, and you and your clients perhaps. I know John is always, look, he lives in the neighborhood, his clientele are neighbors, and I know they work as much as they can with the neighbors. So, but I can't assure you what the outcome might be. But John, you heard a request from a neighbor, and I'll leave it to you folks.
Yeah, I'll talk about that with the design team.
Okay. We would appreciate that very much.
I mean, does it not, I apologize. I'm looking for the site plan. Is it in a conforming location, guys?
Yeah, yes, it is. And I'm gonna pull it up on screen, John. It's in a conforming location, and you know, our clients are more than willing to be very neighborly, and I'm sure will make every effort to visually screen that with evergreens to the point where it's not any type of obstruction.
What are they come on for like 10 minutes once a week? Do you have any idea what the schedule is? I'm just trying to.
They're typically 5 minutes once a week and just cycle through, but it's otherwise very typical. And it's in a conforming location, John.
Okay, I will tell you for whatever it's worth. It's nice to see it in a conforming location. The building department for many years, 30 years, took the position and still does in many cases, that a generator doesn't have to conform to those requirements. So I'm glad to see that it is. But I do want to say that I think 5 to 10 minutes a week. And thank goodness they get quieter and quieter all the time. In the old days, they were just a big, fat, loud diesel engine. But in any event, we'll talk to see if there's any attenuation that we can do, right, team? You know,
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
You know, Ms. Kolokundis and Mr. Goldberg trying to be good neighbors.
We would greatly appreciate that. You know, one of the concerns is that, you know, based on where it's placed, it's not just that it's at the farthest point away from their house and closest it can get to 3 other neighbors. It's that it's on the south side of the pool house. So whatever noise that is created will reflect off. And, you know, the point of having a generator is for when the power actually goes out. And it could be, as we all know, from Sandy and Irene and a bunch of other storms, it could be weeks at a time. So,
well, I
know
that's
why we're asking. I understand. We have a generator as well, and we try to minimize the impact on our neighbors as well. So all we're asking is that some consideration be given to that.
Okay, I think both sides have heard each other, so I'll leave it to neighbors to talk over their fence. So we have another member of the public who wants to speak. At least I know of one. So Kat, if you can let, I believe it's Joan in.
Letting Sayu in.
Yeah, if you can, I want to share the screen, and if you could let Sharizad Kayami in as well.
Okay, let's.
And then Joan, if you can identify yourself. Okay.
What am I doing? I lost it. Shoot.
John, we hear you. Joan, just identify yourself.
Yeah, I'm Joan McGivern from Toomey Latham.
Okay.
And I think I've shared my screen.
Yes, you have.
So I represent Sharizad Kayami, who I believe is on or is waiting to be let in.
I let him in.
Okay. And I don't have the right thing up. Sorry about that. Hang
That's
on.
okay.
Can I stop my sharing? Hang
Just
on.
click the next slide and we'll see it.
Yeah, no.
So we've got on my screen, I've got John Gregory's smiling face, and then I've got Andrew Newman's, I guess, a chocolate lab or something like that.
Black lab.
Black labs, sorry. Well, and anyway.
Black lab, his name is Bugs.
Okay, well, they're both good looking shots, but very, very different. And
okay, I've got it now. Hang on.
Okay, don't worry, Joan. We're good.
Okay, thank you for your indulgence. So we've already pointed out that they removed the railing, but they have the They still have the side balconies that are 84 square feet. They haven't reduced the balconies. They're hardly Juliet balconies, which is what my client is concerned about. And the French door windows, although John is right, you don't want to presume that your client's going to break the law. They could also sell the house and a subsequent occupant may break the law and put up a deck rail. So one of the board members had suggested maybe having slightly shorter windows, so there'd be less of a temptation to open the French doors and walk out onto the party deck. If you'd consider that, that would be appreciated. With respect to the drone study, I read the letter of Christopher Broche, I think his name is, and there were two issues with it. One is that he calibrated it from the existing structure's elevation, which is not where the proposed house is going. And the second was he said there was a limited line of sight to the roof of the adjacent property, which is not the concern. The concern, of course, is to my client's backyard. Her roof line is not relevant. And also the existing house is lower. The new structure, second floor balcony, appears to be higher, although we couldn't tell from the drawings how much higher. If you look at this drawing, you'll see the old pool is sketched in blue and laid out over the proposed house. The larger arrow is about where the existing house photo was taken. We also believe that the separation between my client's backyard and the new balcony is about 38 feet, but it could be less. We're not sure because there was no new survey submitted. This is another aerial view of the same thing from the old pool to my client's pool. This is another angle just showing that where the red arrow is the proposed new balcony into her backyard. You could probably visualize it best by the drone picture that we took, which is approximately at 20 feet. And the red arrow is about where we believe the balcony would be. I mean, obviously on the other side of the tree. So it's much closer to her property than the line of sight vision that was provided. This is another angle. We also had an issue with the Goldberg's plans because there were mature trees and hedges shown. So, I mean, even in the summer, they don't provide the bulk or density that the screening suggested by the Goldberg's sightline study showed. And there aren't any guarantees that the mature trees won't be damaged during construction. And Shahrazad Kayami had construction on the other side of her where they damaged her hedges. So she's quite sensitive to this issue. So in sum, she'd like to see the balcony closest to Wyandanch removed. Certainly it's not a Juliet balcony. The suggestion of a hipped roof or possibly having the windows shorter than French doors would be helpful. She also, the Goldbergs have not reached out to her to discuss possibly a landscape plan of some kind that would ensure her privacy and not completely shade her pool. And then in anticipation of the mature trees being damaged, we'd like to see something in a landscaping plan that would anticipate that. And although this is not your bailiwick, that a silt net be provided to protect her existing hedges. I can stop sharing my screen now.
Okay.
And I don't know if Shahrazad wants to say anything in addition at this point.
Hi, I don't know if you can see me or just have my name up there.
We can hear you.
Okay, good. I think John has covered all the points. I understand that there has to be a balance, and it's nice to have a balcony to go and, you know, have a cup of coffee. And I understand all that. There's nothing nicer. But there also has to be some respect for my privacy. And I'm hoping we can work this out, and we can all, you know, live together without, you know, I hope this can be resolved.
Mhm, mhm. So, John, you representing the client. It seems some neighborly discourse might be in order, or talking about landscaping.
Yeah, why don't I?
What do you think?
You know what? We were going to demonstrate, there are certain assumptions, just let me say for the record, there are certain, and I'm not going to not listen to what you're saying, Jeff, but
I know.
I do want to say for the record, it's very important that Joan mischaracterized fairly significantly our methodology. We didn't take it from the roof. You can see it from our own methodology. We projected it out from the roof of the existing house, which, by the way, the existing house has a second-story deck. But in any event, so that's really important to note, because and that's why we had that cone of vision, which I'm sorry, I'm showing my age. All I could think of was the cone of silence on Get Smart, but sorry guys, but the cone of vision. Remember the cone of silence that never worked? Everybody could hear other than the people who were in the cone of silence. But anyway, I think it's a good idea to talk about this. Maybe there's some modifications that can be made. Why don't we just talk to the clients, guys? I think, and get that done. See what we can do, and we can speak to Joan about it, and
yeah,
and come back in a couple of weeks if that's okay.
Sounds good. So,
Josh.
I mean, I wanted, you know, the clients are traveling right now, and as you know, this is certainly not, you know, one or two hearings, and it's been an unbelievable process, and we enjoy the process. I'd love to, personally, I'd love to come to a conclusion on this now. I feel like our science is there. I feel like the board had seen that we have taken off a very large balcony, which was going to be very gratuitous.
Josh, let me just, if I may, and you can yell at me tomorrow, and the client can yell at me tomorrow, but I think what you're hearing is we're there, and correct me if I'm wrong, you know, with the architecture, the balconies, the front attached garage and everything, and we just have to have the neighbors happy with one another's privacy issues. So if that takes a couple of extra weeks.
Absolutely, sure.
I mean, I hope I'm not misstating anything.
Oh, no, I mean, I feel.
Well, I don't want to know. I'm asking the board, not you. I hope I'm not misstating anything.
I think the board's comments speak for themselves. And the neighbors speak for themselves. And John, you speak for your client. And having said that, I would move that we accept your request for an adjournment. And I'd like a second on that.
Thanks.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
Aye.
great.
you,
Everybody, and I do mean everybody, thank you for your input.
What would the adjournment be?
The adjournment in terms of the,
Okay.
yeah, 2 weeks with submissions due noon before the Thursday before the meeting. And in this case, it's essentially landscaping as far as I can see it. Board members, am I missing anything I said there? Nope. Okay.
Well, I'm not sure Ms. Kayami necessarily agrees that she might want some modifications to the balcony closest to her property. but
Well, no, that,
Yeah,
then
appreciate it.
discuss that offline.
No,
Okay.
no, she
I
made a statement that she said she understood why people want the balconies. You got to
I
remember the
did.
existing.
I did.
Finish.
I
The
do.
existing house, if I may, the existing house has a balcony.
need to
There's
reopen
a
this?
much larger balcony that's already
Are
approved.
we, did we adjourn? Because if we adjourn, we need
Yeah.
to
I
read
think-
it.
I think we did.
Thank
So,
That balcony is less than
Okay,
38
well,
feet from
so-
me. I mean, this is,
Do we need to reopen
Right, right,
this
right.
or?
no, no.
I don't
At
understand
this
why you're
point,
putting words in my mouth.
all right,
I'm not
ladies and
okay with that.
ladies and gentlemen, we came, the client requested an adjournment. We moved on that. Everybody spoke. You folks have the opportunity to speak as neighbors, which is what we agreed to. And I think in a neighborly fashion, we'll see you in 2 weeks, and let's move on from there. Okay?
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. On to our next application. Thank you, Alice, for reminding me that we had actually adjourned that discussion. So
I was confused.
well, yes. And so, okay, again, thank you, everybody. The next application, now I'm lost here. Oh, okay,
The
is that
Tallow
a
Building
Tallow Building Corporation, 135 Corrigan Street, for a 2-story family dwelling with attached garage.
And income, Ann, Drew, Ann Nelson.
And let me get my notes. Okay, hold on a second. Hold on a second. Okay. John, are you on this one as well, or we just have the benefit of your smiling face? Okay.
And there we go.
I hope I didn't offend you, John. But in any event, so okay, so let's see. Identify yourself and.
Hi, everyone. It's Ralph. As you can see, it's not
Right.
it, it's Ralph. So
No.
we're using her computer. She's much better looking than I am. So
Great.
I'll
All
share
right.
my screen now with respect to the comments we had from the last meeting.
Great, yeah, and for the benefit of those listening, there was and the board, there was an issue about the tower element in the front, as opposed to the gable looking just lovely, and then there was an issue about chimney pots to match the drawings. So, and board members, if I left anything out, let me know, but Ralph, I'll turn it back to you. And Ralph, did you already identify yourself?
I don't think I did. It's Ralph Rastu, Tallow Building Corp., 58 Court Drive, Huntington Station, 11746. Okay, you guys can see my screen?
Yep.
All right, so here we push back this whole front tower as requested by the board at the last meeting. We added the shed roof across the front here instead of the 2-story tower. This is actually the window that's interior now, so there's no double window and there's no 2-story space on the inside here. And then I will go to the rear elevation. Okay, and here's the rear elevation where it's Lorraine, that shows the fuel stone. It's supposed to be Lorraine White. So this was changed to Lorraine White, and the pots were changed to a natural color. The brick.
The renderer made a mistake, but it's on the plans.
Yeah, it's on
Yeah.
it's notated on
Okay.
the plans that it's Lorraine White.
Yeah, I actually thought in the last rendering, wasn't it white or not?
I don't think so.
Maybe
But
not,
we did
okay.
notate the plans that that it is Lorraine White.
Mhm.
So I guess
Okay.
the renderer did not change this. And that's the 2 comments we had from before.
Okay. Board members?
Yeah, I thought we agreed we were going to have the reversed gable expressed in the front and not have the tower. You still have the tower, it's just cut back.
That's because the interior space still comes out this way. We can't just cut this line off over here.
No,
This
I
is
know, but
covering that front space.
we talked about last week. We were gonna make the reverse gable behind this. I can't see the reverse gable behind that tower. That was gonna be the expression. So, I mean, maybe it didn't work. I don't know, but
It doesn't work from the roof line standpoint. So my understanding of it was this was, this tower was actually out at this point before, so it was much more prominent and protruding from the front a lot further. So we cut it back this way, and the way the roof line comes over here, we can't just bring it straight across. So that was my interpretation. We added the shed roof here to turn around and bring down the massing of this as well, and push the front entrance back.
Right. Okay, other board.
Reverse gable, you said that word. So, but let other people comment, please.
Okay, other comments?
I don't,
Other board.
I don't have an issue. I think it's fine.
I think you did a good job listening. Thank you for changing the chimney issues in the back. I think it looks
Thank
fine.
you. You're welcome.
Yeah, I think it looks fine.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think you've made an effort reducing it. It wasn't what we thought it was agreed upon, but I don't really have that much of a problem with it.
Yeah, I think the reduction is okay.
Peter, you're going to kill me?
No, we don't have to agree.
All right. Is there any further comments from the board or the applicant? Any public comment? Kat, anybody out there?
I'm watching for hands. I see none up.
Okay, we'll wait a couple of seconds. If that is the case, then board members, I ask for a motion. I'll ask you folks for a motion this time to approve the applicant's request. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, so 4-1, I say aye as well. So Ralph, you can proceed to the building department this week and get your building permit once I sign the documents, probably on Wednesday this week.
Okay, perfect. All right, thank you all.
Okay, but check with Jackie first.
Okay, will do.
Okay.
All
All right, thank you. Okay. The next application is that of Alexander Wolf at 35 Cooper Street, two-story addition and alterations to dwelling and alterations to accessory building. And who's ever speaking, please step forward. I'm just going to get a glass of water. Hold on.
And here comes Lisa Zaloga. There she is.
Hello, Lisa.
She's almost all the way in. There you are. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, Ariel. How come you can't see me?
Here, let me ask you to start your camera.
Oh,
We see you.
Oh, there you are.
I am. How are you? Hi, everybody.
All right, so who's ever representing the applicant, and I assume it's you, Lisa, please identify yourself.
Lisa Zaloga, 1375 North Sea Road, Southampton. I am the architect for Alex Wolf at 35 Cooper Street. And I would like to share my screen with you guys.
Okay, and this is a new application.
This is a new application, correct? And I submitted my affidavits of posting and mailing.
Yes,
Correct.
thank you.
Okay. So you can see
Stealing my thunder.
Sorry. Okay, so you guys can see my screen, I hope.
Yes,
we can.
So this is a piece of property on Cooper Street. And it currently has a 1.5-story house and a 1.5-story frame building that is a garage on the first floor with just an open space on the second floor with a stair, an exterior stair that travels up to it. We went to the Zoning Board of Appeals, and I have my decision that we got last month to have a few breaks in the pyramid law. The way my elevations are set up, the existing elevations are on the top and the proposed elevations are on the bottom. So you can see the existing south elevation is the street facade. And you can see the pyramid law lines on the side here, these 45-degree lines. So we went to the Zoning Board of Appeals for these little sections of the roof here. Currently, the house has 2 bedrooms and a bathroom underneath this roof line here. Basically, our goal is to rip off that roof line and rebuild the second floor. But as you can see, we're not really becoming a full 2-story house. We're a 1.5-story house, and we're only about 23 feet tall. So the front elevation currently has a little 1-story reverse gable and a shed roof over this little projection here on the front. And I will show you my survey. So that little 1-story projection there is over this little front entry here. Our goal is to fill that in with house, which is what kind of gives us that more flat facade there with the reverse gable. On the west side of the house, again, this is the existing conditions. You can see it's a relatively flat second floor roof line there, and it has a side entry on the driveway side that goes down into the basement access here. So it has this relatively odd little protrusion on the side there. We are again building that up as a part of the house and using that for the kitchen. So you can see again, we've pulled forward on the front street side. That was the existing line. So we've come forward there, again with a reverse gable and a little shed dormer by the existing chimney that will remain. We've removed this chimney here. The north elevation, the rear of the house, again, this area here is a very low attic space currently. So we're going to put our second floor there and create our master bedroom over the existing living space. And we've shed dormered on the 2 sides. Again, that little portion right there is what I received a variance for, that little portion of that shed roof right there. And then the east side, again, that very flat pitched roof. And we have created a little bit of a steeper gable and our shed dormers. Then we're going to remove this wood deck in the back, and we're going to put a terrace off the back there. The purpose of this frame building, we are going to use it as more of a accessory building than a garage. And we're going to remove the second floor out of it and just have it as a cathedral space. And the stair going up to the back will also be removed. So currently it's a garage with a large garage door here. We're going to have storage on the one side, and we're going to mimic the doors on the other side, but they will be false. And then we will just be opening it up with a pair of doors. And we are removing, there currently is a window on the west elevation that looks into the hedge in the neighbor's property, and we're removing that. We also, behind that building, are planning on putting in a swimming pool and just a covered terrace area, no windows, no doors, just the fireplace with an outdoor shower and the pool equipment shield behind it. So our materials are white cedar shingles, a cedar roof, Glengarry brick is pretty much what's there. If we have to extend it, we will match what's there. And the trim will be painted AZAC, Anderson windows. Any questions?
Board members? That sounds to me like no objections.
I just need to make my normal pointing out that there's a lot of AZAC, which is basically a PVC product. We're going to end up, it's all of the application of AZAC and PVC is going to long outlive us both in the built environment and in the ground. And I wish that we could move toward timber products instead. I know that when painted, everyone says that, oh, you can't tell the difference, but eventually it'll break down. And I wish we could figure out other materials. End of sermon.
Duly noted, and I've shared with Sarah that I have her same concerns. I mean, the village is concerned about Lake Agawam, and I know it's a different type of pollution, but anything we can do to improve the world in which we live would be great.
We seem to have managed to stop the sale of plastic bags, but we perpetuate it in our built environment, and I find it amazingly ironic.
Yeah, no, it's a good point to make to the trustees, and we will do that. And Lisa, to the extent any of your clients are so inclined, or you can encourage them to use natural materials, it's all the better. In full disclosure, folks, I live on the neighboring property, which is owned by my wife, and she graciously lets me live in the same house. You know, my concern is one of privacy, but I think in this case, we'll deal with that with the neighbors, because I know they have the same concerns. So if there are no objections to the architectural nature of the proposal, and if there's no public comment, then because—
No hands yet?
No. Okay, because I'm a neighbor, I'd like somebody else to make a motion to approve the application.
Approve the application for 35 Cooper Street.
Okay, is there a second on that?
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye as well. So any objections?
Yay.
Okay. I'm sorry, did I see one or two hands? One hand. Okay. Okay. Lisa, you know the procedure. The ayes have it. And so I'll be signing the files on Wednesday.
Thank you very much. Have a good night, guys.
You too. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. I think at the end of this, my voice goes into a higher register than it already is. Simply because my throat gets dry. Okay, so the next application, also a new application. Let me just get to that, folks. Is that of
125.
Brennan Joint Revocable Trust at 120 Bishop's Lane.
All right.
For a two-story single dwelling.
Bringing in.
And okay. And Alice, do we have confirmation of affidavits?
Yes, we do.
Thank you.
Hello?
Hello.
Hello. So could you please identify yourself?
Yes, hi. I'm Matthew Pantafel. I'm the builder for the Brennan residence. I'm
Okay.
representing them today.
Okay, good. And I see you have an assistant.
Yeah, she's whatever, she's leaving now.
No, that's, well,
Technologically savvy than I am.
yeah, that's, I can appreciate that. So in any event, Matthew, it's your floor to tell us about the project.
This is a new residence. We're gonna demo the existing one in its entirety. It's a corner property and it's on a pretty large lot. It's a little over a half an acre. And we're gonna put a two-story house with a two-car attached garage, a pool. There is an existing shed that we are gonna leave. And we're gonna have cedar siding, white cedar shake. And I did propose the black windows.
Right. So I'll tell you, let's hold up for just a second. Do you have the ability, or your assistant can help you share your screen so the public can view it as well as us?
To do the, how about like if I show it like that? Can you see?
Beautiful. That's fine. That works.
All right. That's the front elevation.
Mhm.
I also can show you the rear elevation, maybe.
Gosh.
Okay, that's must be. And that is the rear elevation.
Mhm.
Are you guys seeing that?
Yep.
Okay.
No.
I enclosed copies of all these renderings for you. Unfortunately, it wasn't as clear as these are. The ones that I gave you copies of along with the landscape plan.
Yeah. Okay. So Matt, was there anything that you wanted to add to that? Otherwise, I'll ask the board members for their comments, and then you can respond to their comments after we hear the entire board.
So I would open it up to the board's comments.
Okay, great. Sarah, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I'll sing my song. On the exterior materials list, you start out fine with a natural cedar, and then you go to trim boards, white AZIC PVC boards, decking, columns and brackets, white PVC, railing systems, white PVC. And you might have heard my previous comments, which are that the use of PVC is in the built environment is going to last past the built environment and into our landfills. And I wish that natural materials could be encouraged instead.
Okay.
I also am rather distressed by the fact that you have another one coming up on South Street that seems to be quite similar to this application.
In terms of the materials.
Yeah.
Okay. John, comments?
I agree with Sarah, and the black windows are something I just can't approve based on what's appropriate for the village of Southampton.
Right.
And the second story window, that the three windows that are ganged together, the one that's at a higher level than the other two, just, I don't know, doesn't look all that great to me, but that's not as big of an issue as the black windows, which I can never approve.
Mark?
It's funny, I was going to echo that same comment as John. I think the differing size windows above the door, I think I'd appreciate if they're the same size. And on a ground plan standpoint, I feel like there's a massive amount of driveway here. Those would be my two comments on it.
Right. Peter?
Yeah, it's very generic. No, I don't. It's not, it's very generic. It looks like you came out of I don't know what. No, it's not special in any way. Black windows, plastic trim. I don't know what to say. And it's like the other one. I don't know. It's like cut and paste.
Right. So I think, Matt, let me summarize the board's comments because they reflect mine as well. And we spoke about the materials. And while we may have some issues with AZAC in terms of its environmental sustainability or lack of, we do recognize that it is material that can be used judiciously. And when used judiciously, it can fit in and it may be appropriate for the particular use. I'm not 100%, but I can usually spot AZAC. Despite everybody saying, nah, it looks the same, I can generally spot it. Mm-hmm. And so when it's used as much as it is in this house, it becomes an issue. Mm-hmm. Secondly, you add on to that black windows. Then you add on the flourish of the larger window. You come away with, I think what Peter was saying is a house that is wanting of a bit more charm than this has. And that's, again, from materials to the window finish, and then to some of the architectural features. So you're welcome to respond, and you're welcome to come listen to the board and perhaps come back with changes.
So I've taken the liberty after listening to some of the previous people, and I spoke with the customer. They're okay with going with a white window, if that would make everybody happy. And I personally like with that window being higher in the 3 windows in front, but if that would be a deal breaker, I would make them all the same size. And I would feel better if I was able to keep the AZAC trim as opposed to changing it. It's not excessive. Most people who trim the houses these days do, the trim around the windows and all your fascias and so forth are usually AZAC. So, like I said, the main feature that I think that I'm hearing that you have an issue with is the black window, and they are willing to change it to white.
Right. I will say that, again, the use of AZAC sparingly, judiciously, whatever word you want to use, is acceptable at some level. In this case, where I believe the columns are AZAC. Mm-hmm.
The columns, the fascias, and the window trim.
Right. So, if I look at that front overhang, and I figure if I did a measurement of all the facings, which I'm not going to do, I would say that represents, I don't know, well, if you just look at the piece, it doesn't matter, percentages, 10, 20%, it's a lot. So natural wood columns, I think, would soften the look, because there's no question in my mind
I don't have a problem with that.
with the
Change the
columns, and then, you know, then if you're gonna have wood columns, it would seem to me to be natural in keeping with that, the flow of that, the feeling of that, to have wood fascias at the very least on the front. Because again, you can tell plastic.
I'm okay with that. So wood fascias in the front, wood columns in the front, white windows. My last question would, if I give in on all of that, would you keep the window in the front, the one window to be a little taller than the other two on the sides?
Ladies and gentlemen, I mean, you might have to see it because, you know, the renderings are just so powerful.
I think we're tinkering with something that is really, really not up to snuff. And I really would recommend, rather than tinkering, if you look at the quote right side elevation with all those eave boards, plastic, 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 plastic. I think that we're trying to improve something that is really not up to snuff. And I would say that.
Are you talking about the materials, or are you talking about?
I'm talking about design and materials. And
Oh, okay, well, I didn't hear that on the design. The design issues that I heard were the windows and the windows, not only in color, but the three windows, their
So if I
relative heights.
install the
And
fascia boards-
hold on, Matt, I'm just trying to get clarity, but I
I
didn't hear of the design issues, so please bring them
Well,
out if that's the case.
The quote right side elevation, I'm assuming is
With the garages is what you're referring to,
yeah,
correct?
that's the south elevation.
Right.
Point. You've got many barred.
We don't get the, oh, sorry, hold on a second.
Eave configurations that roof that is really quite a jumble. I think that the roof elevation on the front elevation, in which there's a step down and then a return gable, I can't approve this from a design standpoint.
And you know, also on the front of the house, I mean, the only distinction is that one window that is slightly higher than the other two. Without that, you know, I guess my question is there anything that can be done to embellish the front of the house or make it a little more special than it currently looks?
Well, I think part of the charm, and also with the village, to make the houses, I don't want to say less special, but to be not stand out. You follow what I'm saying? So I didn't want to, in keeping with the village, to not, for instance, put a standing seam roof over the porch. You know, that would make it stand out, but that changes the whole feel of the house. You know, so by keeping it nondescript and simple, I think also keeps it a little more historic. I know the black windows aren't, but you know, that's the trend. That's what, so if I made them all white windows, I think it kind of goes with the flow, so to speak.
So I'm looking at a black and white drawing, right? No, it doesn't. The black and white drawing to me is more appealing than the color rendering.
Well, that's why, because it has that black in there right now.
Well, and what I'm saying is because I'm imagining a natural cedar house with white painted wood fenestrations and mullions and soft wood columns, soft wood fascias. And when I envision that house, I buy what you're saying, Matt. When I see a rendering of a white house with black windows, and I know you said that, with plastic trim, it's hard for this board, and at least this board member, to get away from saying this doesn't accomplish what you're seeking to accomplish in creating a simple or Southampton house. Board members, am I making sense?
Well, again, like I said, once the windows were
I agree
changed,
with you completely, Jeff.
Go ahead, Matt.
once the windows are changed, that would change that whole look. It would simplify it. And with a roof, that with this rendering the way it is, it's showing the natural cedar, but as we both know, that's gonna fade to gray. You know, your natural cedar fades to gray, so it doesn't stay brown like that. And this is a natural cedar roof. So it's a white house with a natural cedar roof.
And what about and maybe I missed it, a response to Sarah's question about the gables?
Well, the gables on the side, like I said, I'd be willing to change them all to wood if that would appease you. But if you look at the design of this with the different elements inside and the different roofs, I think on the black and white drawing, it looks a lot busier than it will once it's built, with especially being white on white, it's all gonna kind of blend in.
Board members, do you want to give Matt a chance to, it's not whether we want to give him a chance, he has it by right, but to come back with his suggestions, in other words, Matt, asking you to, having heard what the board has said, and come back with line drawings and renderings that address the concerns of the board as well as meet the needs of your client.
Okay, I guess I don't have a choice, so can you
Oh,
put me
no,
on?
you do have a choice. You have a choice for us to vote on this as submitted.
Well, we already
and-
know the answer, so let's move on and present it for the next meeting.
Okay, so unless there's any comment from the public, I will accept and move to accept your request to adjourn to the next meeting. Are there any public comments? No, okay. That being said, I move that we accept the applicant's request, the applicant being that at Brennan Joint Revocable Trust at 120 Bishop's Lane to adjourn to the next meeting. Matt, any resubmissions are to be into the building department by noon, the Thursday before the meeting. And if you can't make that, it's no big deal, other than we'll push it off to the meeting,
No,
the
I'll
following
make it.
meeting 2 weeks.
I'll speak with the
Okay.
architect tomorrow.
Okay, so, but the point is, if you can make it in 10 days on a new submission, great. If not, it'll just get pushed to 2 weeks
All right.
hence. Okay,
Second the adjournment.
so, thank you, John. I think I'm getting bleary-eyed.
And now next 23.
Well, hold on a second. So, so we have a motion, we have a second. Do I have all in the favor of accepting? Thank you. Okay, no objections, then we'll see you in a couple of weeks, Matt. Okay,
But I'm on the next task. as
I know,
well.
we'll see you, we'll also see you in a couple of minutes. So the next application is that of 23 South Street LLC, 23 South Street for a 2-story building. So with the representative of that application, please state your name and address.
Hi, my name's Matthew Pantafel. I'm representing 23 South Street LLC for a new house with an attached 2-car garage. The rendering was marked incorrectly, that the pool is existing, and so is that shed with the pool equipment, kind of. It's really a pool equipment enclosure. That's existing all in the backyard. So that's not going to be touched. And the,
I'm sorry, go ahead.
no, the finishes on this again was white AZAC for the trim, white cedar shingle for the exterior siding, natural cedar for the roof, and the black windows.
Right. So just to save everybody some time,
Yes.
I think you know our sentiment on the
black
materials, the windows, the black trim. If you heard some of the discussion before, there's a no, we'll just leave it to this application. But you heard us before on that. So let's focus, board, if we could, on the design.
Right.
So board members, comments on the design.
Peter?
Whatever the same thing goes for the one on Bishop. It's generic, it's undistinguished. It looks like a typical spec house. Looks like he didn't even try. I'm sorry.
John?
I have to agree. It's a little too simple. And black windows, of course, which we all know.
We all know that, but.
Okay. Mark, Matt, we'll give you a chance. Let's hear from the other board members.
Well, I think we're all going to fall in the same place. Once again, we've got the same window issue over the door. And I think for some reason, it almost looks like a house that was made from purchased plans. I know that's not true because there's an architect on the project.
Not true.
I know.
Yeah, no, well, he goes qualified that.
Both of these houses lack individuality and charm. And I feel the same way about this house.
Sarah?
The same thing, I would roundly soundly say no, just based on both the lack of digested design and the materials.
It's not Southampton, you know, it's Mid-Island somewhere. I don't know, but it's very generic. It could be in Comac, anywhere.
So, and those are lovely places.
Lovely places, but they're not Southampton.
I know, exactly. So I think, Matt, you're getting a sentiment from the board relative to this application and to some extent the prior one, but that's already closed,
right,
or at least adjourned. So, you know, I can only ask that you go back to the drawing board, literally, and come back to us, having heard the board's comments, unless you want us to vote on this one tonight.
No, I'll be back for the next one. So can Jackie put me on for both, and I'll have everything handed on in hopefully by the end of this week, if not Monday.
Okay, all right. So unless there's any public comments, which I don't think there are. Okay, so I move that we accept the applicant's request, the applicant being 23 South Street LLC at 23 South Street, to adjourn to our next meeting. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Okay. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Okay,
All right.
We'll see you in a couple of weeks. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
John Bennett, long time no see. Okay, the next application is 317 Murray Place. Not surprisingly, at 317 Murray Place for two-story single-family dwelling with attached garage. Would the applicant identify themselves?
Well, it's John Bennett. I'm here with Jonathan Subject, hopefully, from Stella Lamont and Ronnie. Hopefully you're on, Jonathan. And Ian Hanbach from LaGuardia Design. Ian's here, amongst other things, to let you know that we've been working with the next door neighbor to the east with his landscape architect, Ed Hollander, who's actually, Ed's going to be on the next on the
Okay.
next project at 1116 Meadow Lane, but we've been trying to work it out with the next door neighbor, the architect. I know the next door neighbor, who actually a former client of mine, has retained Toomey Latham. I think Joan is on tonight. I did speak to Chris Kelly. I just want to get this out of the way procedurally. I did speak to Chris Kelly today. The hope would be, of course, if the board, unless the board wants us to come back for other things, and of course that may happen, but that we'd like to see if we could work out the buffering between the two properties in the next week, and then have something that we can both agree to the board in the next week, and hopefully have it on, assuming everything else goes well tonight, which I'm hoping it will, for a possible determination in 2 weeks. I think the next door neighbor wanted his architect, Tim Haynes, who designed the house next door, to take a look at the screening as well. But I'll remind you guys of that at the end of the meeting. I just, or at the end of the hearing. So at this point, I'd just like to have the folks from Stella Lamont go through the plan. This is, if you've been down there, the house that's there is, with all due respect, is sort of like, I don't know how to describe it. It's like sort of a castle-y sort of thing, I guess. I don't know. And I think what you're going to see is a replacement with some really wonderful contemporary design. I've always thought that it's more difficult to do good contemporary stuff than traditional. I don't. In a certain sense, and I think I hope you'll agree that this is a great example. As always, it's a pleasure to work with Stella Lamont and Ronnie. So anyway, Jonathan, take us through the project. Jonathan?
Kat, is he in?
I don't think Kat's on the call anymore.
Ian?
Let's see, are they showing up as, hold on a second. I'm on this one.
I see Ian, he has his hand up.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's see, okay. Let's see, is there a way, I don't see, I see him in the chat room.
And Jonathan does too.
Hold on, let's see. Ian.
Mark, you're the host. Can you?
Oh, there's Ian.
Can you let him in, Mark?
Yeah, hang on.
Yeah, I guess I'm not the host anymore. Okay.
See that I am either.
So Ian needs to come in.
Okay, hang on.
I think you should just be able to double click them in.
Yeah, I'm trying. Hang on.
Oh, sorry.
I make a motion to approve.
I agree. I agree.
I've looked at it.
Well,
Perfect.
I really like it.
It's great,
Well,
great, isn't it?
In addition to hearing from the applicant, there are some there are some folks in the public that do want to speak. So
Well, any questions about I'm not trying to be presumptuous, but I think particularly
beautiful.
this is
It's
fantastic.
beautiful. The materials are fabulous.
I think it's a great, beautiful as well.
It's weathered teak, it's weathered ipe, it's sandblasted gray stone. I mean, come on, it doesn't get any better than this.
Talent in this design.
Hello, can you hear me? Ian and Jonathan are in.
Oh,
Good.
okay,
So don't say anything.
Yeah.
It's talking permitted.
We're done.
well,
got-
not
you got
not
to-
exactly, folks. We do have a procedure to follow, and we do have public comment.
No, I'm not talking about that.
I know.
I'm just talking-
I know. Okay, so Ian and Jonathan, it's up to you as to how you want to proceed.
Good evening. You can see me now?
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Great, thank you. So if I'll share my screen, I can bring up the presentation.
Sure.
Good.
Okay.
I tried.
I know. We did
Thanks,
too.
John, and we all appreciate that. Okay, so I'm just going to walk you through. So we'll start with, on the presentation, we have the main aerial view that shows the access coming up Murray Place. And then I'll walk you through the photos showing from the existing entrance, around the existing facade, and then we'll go into the renderings. So here we are looking at the various views. The view down on the bottom, number 4, is the actual entrance and the gate that's there now with the existing hedgerow. And then walking around the building. So the first view on the left, existing north elevation. And then we're moving over to the east, which is the side elevation. You got a 2-car garage down in a lower level, and then the stone facade. And moving to the south elevation. So same thing. So there's an existing lawn there, a view facing out to the ocean, and then the existing west. Moving to the next slide. So now these would be views looking from the house back out. So the view looking north to the neighbor's property. The view looking number 10, looking east. So you see a hedgerow there, and then the covered row, which is very tall, blocking out most of the neighbor's view. Looking south, so you have the lawn, and then overlooking the existing dune. And then the view looking to the west.
Jonathan, just for the boards, if you can go one back, that large burlap covered buffer is on the neighbor's property. That's existing buffer on the neighbor's property, correct?
Yes, the small hedgerow is on our property, and then the larger covered burlap is on the neighbor's property. Okay, and then going out to the beach, so top right, that's our view looking from the beach over the dune back towards the existing house. Bottom left would be view looking, that would be northeast. So our house, that same hedgerow, and then the existing house there. And then the view looking west, northwest. So with that, I'll go into the renderings. So the idea is to keep the existing driveway, and then you'd be coming up and entering. And so this would be as you park and you land, so you're coming up to the front steps. There's a small water feature here. As you've seen with the materials, this whole first level is a limestone, little covered entry with some landscaping on the side. We have some modest overhangs on here. Upper level, so there's overhangs on the top and lower level that were introduced to keep the building more horizontal and more low in nature, and also provide, covered entries and some shade. Going around. So this is the rear view. So that would be looking over the existing dune, the existing lawn. You have lowest level, same thing. So we have a proposed new pool. The existing pool would be demolished. Lower patio would be stone. On the right side, we have a screened-in pavilion. So the screens would be retractable and would live in these columns. And then you have the same stone carrying around overhangs on the lower level, upper level. So for those samples, this would be the same limestone carrying through. The upper level would be that weathered teak. I should mention the doors and windows are all going to be a similar weathered teak. We would leave them, to weather naturally. Going to the next view.
And that's detached, oh yeah, never mind.
Yes, this pavilion here is detached. So this would be looking, so the rendering has, these trees back here would be where that existing hedgerow is and on the neighbors. Same thing. Upper level, there is what we're calling the sky court. So none of these rooms on the second floor have access to a balcony. They have, we have the it's a 20-inch sill in the glass above, and then everybody would have access to this center sky court, which would have a glass railing, and then it opens up and allows for the view. Next view. So this would be your view looking from the screen porch, looking back towards the negative edge pool. Proposing to have a little fire pit. On the right there, that would be the kitchen, main entry. Living room is on the middle. Let's see what the next view. And then of course looking out. So this would be coming through that main entry space. Upper level is the deck, and then you go down a few risers, and then this is the same stone that would be on the house, with negative edge pool, and then that view out looking towards the ocean. And then this would be that southwest corner looking back over the pool towards the screen porch pavilion. So that's generally the architecture. Do we want to? Is Ian on?
I am, John.
So you want to take over and talk about the landscape a little bit?
Sure. Yeah, I think as John Bennett had alluded to earlier, and I guess for the record, Ian Hambach with LaGuardia Design. As John Bennett had alluded to earlier, we're working with a neighbor to the east to provide a suitable screen between the two properties. John had on that sheet A0004, image number 10. You could really see the screen that was already there. We're not going to get too cute with it and try and reinvent the wheel. I mean, there's certain species that are going to live down there. You know, there's a facade of that house, a facade of our house. We're trying to create a joint screening effort there. So we're going to work with their design team to make sure that that's as tall and robust as the ocean's going to allow it to be. So as John Bennett noted, we're going to work over the next few days to develop that plan so that for the next application, we can come in with their support. With respect to the entry on Murray Place, there's an existing 8-foot privet hedge there. We're not altering that in any way, so we're going to maintain that character. So I think the public perception from Murray is going to be the same. And John did a really nice job, I think, of showing the view from the water looking back to the house. You know, it's a low profile, really sleek design, and I think it's going to complement the horizontal nature of that dunescape.
Okay. So if that's it from your end, John, I'm going to turn it over to the board for comments. And then after that, I'll turn it to the public.
Thank you.
Comments from the board?
Yeah, I wasn't being facetious.
I didn't think of it that way.
I think it's really quite an amazing design, and it's an original design, and the materials are A+. And it's not, the horizontality has been emphasized by the overhangs, and the landscape certainly complements the design, and the materials, as I said, are something that the quality that we should see in most buildings that are presented. And sadly, we're rarely presented with things of this caliber. And A+ from me.
Any other board member comments?
I totally agree with Sarah.
Okay.
As much as I hate to see a set for the Game of Thrones being destroyed in the mix, I think this is really just elegant. You know, it's simple and it's designed. I love the profile. I think it's just beautiful.
Okay.
I just learned that small.
All right.
I just learned that small fire pit is relative. I think it's absolutely beautiful. I would take a little umbrage with Mr. Bennett about the house that was there prior, because I know the family and the owner. I thought it was a very nice chateau design house that was of his vision. But I think this vision is really, really lovely.
Oh, nice family. I wasn't saying anything about the inhabitants.
No, you're about the house. But I think this is really lovely.
Okay, good. So, Peter, did I miss Peter?
That's where I started. Let's make a motion to approve. We have to public. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right. Well,
we got others.
Yes. Let's hear from the public, and then also Ian suggested that you might be coming back next week. So I don't know the dynamics of that, but let's open it to the public now. I don't know if Kat is on and can do that, or If not, whoever is the host, which may be
I think it's Mark.
Mark, are you? Oh, yes, Mark, you're the host.
Oh, the
Can
host,
you
okay.
scan down? And I know
See you had your hand up.
Joan McGibbon had her hand up.
Okay, hang on, I gotta go find this. All right. If you do me a favor and stop sharing your screen for a minute.
Sure.
Thank
Let's see. Any luck, Mark?
you. I'm working on it, hang on.
Okay.
I don't see any hands up.
Yeah, I don't either.
But I know she,
You don't see any hands up.
Joan had sent me.
There are no hands up.
I don't see.
If I may, I will represent as an officer of the court. I did have a conversation today with Chris Kelly, and Joan and Chris work in the same firm. The idea was that LaGuardia Design would work with Ed Hollander over the next couple of days to get something that was acceptable. And we would consent to an adjournment for 2 weeks in order to have that happen. I think that was the only issue. And I wouldn't say that if I mean, that's exactly what happened. So,
But Mark, can you try again? Because Joan just chatted with me to say she is there. She's waiting.
I keep seeing that message, but I keep not seeing her on my list.
If you go to attendees.
She's under attendees, about 5 down.
Yeah. There she is. Good work, Mark. You're a digital genius.
I don't know about that, but such pressure. You're killing it. All right.
Joan was there. You are. Just
You can
unmute. There you go. Okay.
I just wanted to agree with John that Chris Kelly did have that conversation with him. And while we're optimistic that something can be worked out, there aren't any guarantees to that.
Right.
But they are working in good faith and hope to get something done within the next 2 weeks.
Okay.
We will might be a little ambitious.
Actually, that's totally contrary to what Chris said to me today. We agreed that we would both get something done within the next couple of days so the board could have it within, let me finish, please, so that the board could have it within the next week, because I don't want to get it to the board the day before the meeting. So my conversation with Chris.
Well, maybe I misunderstood you when you said within the week. Next week would be next Thursday.
That's right.
Okay, but you said within the week. I thought you were restricting it to this week.
No, I said within a week.
Okay. All right.
And I know that Handback and Hollander have talked already. You can ask Ed on the next application. So I don't know.
Well, here's the good news. You're communicating. Whether or not it was understood 100%. I'm going to leave that between the two of you folks, but I'm glad you are talking. The applicant has requested an adjournment to the following session, and
to
hopefully
accommodate the neighbor.
John duly recognized. And so I move that we accept the applicant's request to adjourn to the next meeting 2 weeks hence, and to submit their revised, whatever revisions or landscape plan. Thank you. And with that being said, do I have a second on that motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. No nays. So good. So then the application of 317 Murray Place is adjourned to the next session with submission of a landscaping plan. Thank you, Joan. Thank you, John. Okay, the next application is that of Meadow Lane Tropco LP. It's interesting. For at 1116 Meadow Lane for a 2-story single-family dwelling with attached garage. So, and who might be representing that person, that applicant? I'm going
It's
crazy.
John Bennett, and I'm here with, it's great pleasure to be here with Tom Kligerman from I. Kligerman Barclay, who is just got to be one of my favorite architects, and not only because he's on the screen, by the way. Ed Hollander.
And now.
Hopefully he's on with us. Ed Hollander from, you know, Ed Hollander Landscape Design, and Tom Lawrence from Bolgen and Associates, the contractor is here with us, who is here to provide any background necessary, if necessary. But you know, again, this is the Architecture Review Board. I think you're going to be thrilled. This is a traditional house going in where there's something less than traditional was, and I'll just let Tom describe it to you.
Let's see, Mark, do you have to let him in?
Am I still the, oh, okay, hang on, I'm looking.
Well, you're the host
I know.
with the most.
Push this back on.
So three attendees have their hand raised.
Okay, want them all in?
You bet.
On it.
So we got Joe.
Andrew, Ed, there we go. Is that everybody?
No, we're still missing Tom and Ed.
Ed Hollander.
I keep promoting them.
There you go.
There we go.
Okay, and Joe, okay, great, good stuff. Okay, the floor is yours.
Video.
Jackie, do you need Joe to identify himself, or you already have that?
I'm good, thank you.
Yeah, good.
Oh.
Okay.
So, hi, I'm Tom Kligerman. I see I'm on now. I'm not used to this format.
I'm not either.
Can you hear me?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
We can hear you.
Okay, great. So as John said, this is a traditional house with sort of a slightly modern edge on Meadow Lane. We'll start with the elevations. It is made of very traditional materials. It's a shingle style house, which is going to be in Alaskan yellow cedar, which will weather naturally to gray. And then the trim and the windows are all painted white wood. I'm not sure which type of wood yet, but it will be real wood. And then the masonry on the house, which includes the chimneys and the foundation walls, as well as site walls, will be a white brick. So the house is basically white and gray sitting in a green landscape. And these drawings, and if you probably have them in front of you, everything is sort of called out as to what is what. But you can see it's a traditional sort of gable formed building of traditional gable forms. This is on the top is the entrance elevation, which faces north. You approach, there's a bay window that you approach on, and then there's a sort of center court in the middle of the building, which has the front door. On the right is a bedroom wing. The lower elevation is the ocean side facing south. 2 large gables, a larger one on the left, a smaller one on the right. There is a porch all along the back of the house. And then a projecting pergola, which comes towards us, which has a little pool cabana attachment to it. So those are the front and back elevations. The side elevations are a little more casual, but again, traditional forms, dormers, combination of gable dormers and also flat roof dormers, a naturally weathered cedar shingle roof, yellow cedar, Alaskan yellow cedar, and then the base of the building, once again, any wall which is not cedar is white painted brick. Next one. So these are renderings of the house. This is as you approach the building from the north, you head up a path, up a set of stairs. It's raised fairly high on the dune. It's in a I think a VE zone, so it's been raised to the proper elevation. You enter approaching on this window bay, up a number of flights of stairs. You can see the gray shingles, white trim. The roof looks white here, but it's actually this is the light reflecting off a gray cedar roof. White trim, white brick on the chimneys, and also in the site walls. You get to the top of the steps there, or just actually, this is a view from the northeast. You get a glimpse of the garage, which is at a lower level down on the left here, which faces east. And you're looking across the sort of facade of the building, window bay in the foreground. Next one. This is a view from the northwest, looking across the tennis court. You can see the house sitting in the landscape. Again, I'm sorry that the roof looks quite so white. This is the way the program reflects the light when you render it, but it is a regular cedar roof. And then the walls are gray cedar, white trim. Back of the house facing the pool. This is the south side. You can see the porch running along above the first floor. A large gable on the left, which is the master, that's the whole master suite in there. On the right is the wing that projects forward towards the ocean. That's also a bedroom wing. Below it is the family room. Along underneath the master bedroom suite is the dining room, living room, and a study. Pool with a negative edge flowing over in the foreground. Also from the southwest, looking across the pool terrace towards the house, with the pergola on the right in the distance, which is centered on the pool in the foreground. The covered porch, and then the sort of low slung, almost bungalow proportion roof line of the house as it sits on top of the dune. Is that it? I think that's all. Joe, do we have materials? I don't know if everybody needs to see the actual material photographs. It's white painted wood and cedar. And then again, white brick. So a pretty limited palette. It's the house is, here you go. White trim on the upper left, white brick below the cedar. I don't know if I can draw something here. We were looking at stone on the house. This is no longer going to be used. All of the masonry on the house is white brick. The paving on the pool and the terraces immediately around the house is a very pale Jerusalem limestone. And then once you're out in the landscape, that stone there is a stone from England that's weathered sand. I think it's a sandstone, maybe a limestone. And
Reclaimed York stone, Tom.
What's that?
It's a reclaimed York stone. It is a reclaimed English sandstone.
Oh, yeah.
This is why I brought Ed along. And then on the left, you can see the pergola, which is just weathered, probably Western red cedar for the pergola. That's it from our presentation.
Should I give a quick review of the landscape?
Sure, Ed.
Joe, you've got the controls here? Do we have a quick site plan? So it's a Meadow Lane house, so it's set back about 250 feet or so, we've got about, I think we have our wetland setback where it'll be all natural, off of Meadow Lane there. The tennis court is surrounded by hedges as per code. It's a kind of like what Ian was saying on the last. When we're working down in the ocean, we're trying to come up with plantings and plant materials that are tolerant of this area that will grow well here, and that will make this kind of sympathetic for the neighborhood and the neighbors, with screening on the east and west sides, natural wetland buffer on the north side, natural dunescape on the south side. Okay. And we're probably, I don't know, 700. We're a long way from the beach right here. this part of Meadowland. We must be back 500 feet from the actual beach itself.
Okay, good. Comments from the board?
I'll start quickly. I think
Sounds good.
I think it's a very well, a beautifully digested Voisian springboard. The battered profile. I particularly like the modern visors and the overhang. And it's nice to see something that is of its period, of its time, but beautifully digested. I have no problem with it at all.
Gentlemen, any other comments?
I think it's beautiful. I love the shingle style, updated with a knife edge detailing. I think it's great. And it's nice to have talented people before the board.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
It's nice. Thank you.
Come back anytime.
I have a question about
Please do.
about the back profile of the house, just for my own education.
The beach side,
Yeah, the beach side.
maybe, yeah.
Yeah, that overhang on the far right side of the house. Can you explain? Is that like for like a sunshade for the over the windows, or how, what's the
This?
intent?
The visor?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, it's a visor. It's sort of a motif that goes through the whole house, whether it is over an individual window like this one, or along, as Sarah said, these sort of knife edge visors over those horizontal dormers. It's something that also, is picked up in things like this return on the big gable. It's picked up in these sort of knife edge rake moldings on the house. So the house. It's even picked up in the form of the chimneys and other details, smaller details now.
Yeah.
Is that, if I said too much?
Yeah. I mean, maybe I'm strange. The only thing I thought about were seagulls nesting in that nook.
No, there's a product called Nixolite, which you may have to use, but that is a very good point.
It's beautiful.
Oh, thanks. Thank you.
All right. Well, to summarize, it's a wow. And to reiterate, it's nice to see a traditional looking house at that end of Meadow Lane that still has, but at the same time, as Sarah said, has an element of contemporary aspects to it as well. And you guys have pulled it off very well. Is there any public comment out there?
I don't see any, Jeff.
Okay.
There you are. Welcome back, Kat.
Mark, make me host, please.
So,
have any comments?
Gladly.
So with there being no objections from the board or comments from the public, I move that we accept the application of Meadow Lane Propco, and is it LP as opposed to LLC, John?
Whatever the file documents say.
Okay, well, it says LP at 1116 Meadow Lane for a 2-story single-family dwelling with attached garage as submitted. Do I have a second on that?
Second.
Second from John Gregory. Do we have ayes?
Aye.
Okay, we have all ayes and no nays. So that being said, good luck, guys. Nice
Thank you very
project.
much.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you.
Good night,
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Okay, so we have one final application which has been adjourned, and that's for driveway gates in the non-historic district for DMDC Holdings LLC at 128 Prospect Street. And I move that we accept their request to adjourn. I think that's, I don't think that's to the next meeting. I think that is actually
Weeks, isn't it?
to, hold on 1 second, folks. Shoot. That is a request to adjourn to March 8th. So do I have a second on that motion?
Second?
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
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 Okay. So we accept the applicant's request to adjourn to March 8th. Unless there are any comments for the public, then I will move that we close this meeting and thank everybody for their good input. And that's it. Enjoy the rest of the evening. Take the rest of the night off.
Thank you.
Okay, Kat and Jackie, thank you. All right, Jackie, I'll see you Wednesday, okay?
Jeff, I actually won't be in the office on Wednesday,
Okay,
but I'll have everything set up. That way, all you have
Okay.
to do is go in. I'll leave it with Chris.
okay.
All righty?
Okay, sounds good, everybody. Good
All
night,
vote
all.
to adjourn.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Do we move to close?
No, that's second, and
Okay,
everybody.
second.
aye.
Yeah,
Aye.
aye.
Aye.